suddenly turned around, his eyes shining. Your boss? Zhang Jifeng? Isn't he dead? Mi Guiyuan, no, Zhang Jifeng is just my boss. Seeing that Zhong Zimo had tried everything and had wasted so much time at the gate of City D, he couldn't even touch the edge of the garrison. Mi Guiyuan had to find a way out again. As a result, he contacted the boss. Zhong Zimo, however, just listened with shining eyes to the superpower mentioned by Mi Guiyuan. On a snowy night, Mi Guiyuan and Zhong Zimo quietly prepared to leave City D. The first to evacuate were the women. Zhong Zimo took the beauties he had carefully selected and got on the Hunan D expressway first. Mi Guiyuan packed up his things and was about to leave. My uncle squatted in the snow, a cigarette in his mouth, and sighed. Those beautiful women are gone. They are all very beautiful women, with absolutely great looks and figures. Before the end of the world, they were either internet celebrities or stars. I have to say that although Zhong Zimo and Mi Guiyuan are useless, their taste in choosing women is still very unique. A wrecker nearby spat. What's the point of being beautiful? Nowadays, the more beautiful a woman is, the more dangerous she is. All the clearance workers knew that Zhong Zimo's women were to be kept as gifts for the garrison or provided to those with special abilities. This is not a very ethical thing to do. But in the end times, it is the best way out for these beautiful women. And these women themselves are willing to do so. No one has any reason to drive them away. They did not make any noise or quarrel, and they even looked forward to being able to hook up with a high-ranking garrison official or a person with special powers. A group of towmen who could only watch but not touch squatted in a row and sighed. Gong Yi led the garrison out of City D and stopped Mi Guiyuan, who was about to leave. Gong Yi was wearing a garrison uniform with a black coat on the outside. At this moment, the medals on the garrison hats are shining. His eyes were as sharp as if carved by a knife. He threw the pistol in his hand at Mi Guiyuan's feet and said, "What does this pistol have to do with you? How could Qin Xiaolan, a butcher, have a gun?" Not only Hua Mi was strictly controlling guns, but even Gong Yi was also strictly controlling the proliferation of guns. Now we must restrain this thing. But Gong Yi also knew that the world was not a good place, and some people, although submissive on the surface, were actually hypocritical. Many people buy and sell guns and ammunition privately. There aren't many, but they are there. They always have endless ways and means to get these things. As long as you have money, lots of money, there will be a market for this thing. But does Qin Xiaolan have money? A woman who makes a living by selling her body, no matter how much money she has, is not enough to buy a gun. When Mi Guiyuan saw the pistol at his feet, he felt sad for a moment and secretly felt bitter. Why did they let Zhong Zimo leave first? Everything was planned and implemented by Zhong Zimo, but Mi Guiyuan ended up staying here. Where did this come from? Before Mi Guiyuan could finish his words, his throat seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand. The scary thing was that the invisible hand lifted him up high. Mi Guiyuan's feet even left the ground. He struggled in mid-air, his feet kicking wildly in the air, his entire face swollen to the color of liver. "Let go, it has nothing to do with me, Zhong Zimo." Gong Yi's voice was icy. "Tell me, what's going on?" He actually had no evidence to prove that the gun was given to Qin Xiaolan by Zhong Zimo and Mi Guiyuan. "I came out of City D today purely to defraud the U.S. Who would have known that it was really Zhong Zimo's doing?" Mi Guiyuan, who was suspended in the air, fell directly to the snow. He didn't even have the strength to stand up. Once you get fresh air, all you have to do is breathe hard. It's like a dried fish returning to the sea. Gong Yi, with an upright posture, took 2 steps forward. He has been impatient lately, and if Mi Guiyuan doesn't tell him, he will kick him away. Realizing the danger, Mi Guiyuan lay on the snow, coughing, and talked about Zhong Zimo buying a gun for Qin Xiaolan. Where did Zhong Zimo go? Gong Yi lowered his eyes and asked in a cold voice. "This Zhong Zimo, I really didn't expect that a secretary could be so courageous. Killing a pregnant woman, is that something a normal person could do?" Mi Guiyuan crouched down and took 2 steps back, as if that would make him less dangerous. Spoke intermittently about how Zhong Zimo got on the highway and was preparing to go to East City to join his boss.
Gong Yi needed.
East City, you guys ran really far. City E is heading towards City A. City D and City A go north and west respectively. How cunning the boss is. Everyone thought that the boss should be in City D, or had gone to City H further north. It turned out that he didn't. He was in City E, west of City A. And the boss that Mei Guiyuan mentioned is probably Chen Hu. But in fact, Mei Guiyuan doesn't know who the so-called boss is. He only knew that his former superior, Zhang Jifeng, was not the biggest boss in the D City Management Building. In fact, there is someone behind Zhang Jifeng, and Zhang Jifeng calls this person boss. Brother Monkey, and those women were all sent to City D by this boss. I've said it all, let me go, let me go. Mei Guiyuan was scared to death. He sat up trembling and looked at Gong Yi with hope in his eyes. He believed he had a good chance of survival. The garrison has strict discipline and will not kill people easily. Without solid evidence, Gong Yi would not take anyone's life for no reason. So although the Americans are afraid, they are not worried about their own lives. He had already planned that once he left City D, he would immediately go to City E to join his boss. Unless it is necessary in this life, Mei Guiyuan does not want to deal with the garrison again. Especially Gong Yi. Gong Yi, who was standing in front of him, lowered his eyes and pursed his lips. There is serious thought in those sharp eyes. The garrison discipline did not allow him to treat human life with disregard. But is it really better for the survivors to keep people like Mei Guiyuan? He didn't seem to have committed any major crimes. He was in charge of the building, but he had never killed anyone or led any major conspiracies. Even, he stayed at the gate of City D because of Zhong Zimo's insistence. He just watched. Watching Monkey Brother and his men taking one miserable woman after another into the management building. Watching the administrators brought to City D by Zhong Zimo being killed by Zhang Jifeng. He also watched Zhong Zimo hint to Qin Xiaolan to anger Huami. He even watched Zhong Zimo give Qin Xiaolan a gun and help Qin Xiaolan kill a 6-month pregnant woman. Should Mei Guiyuan die? Mei Guiyuan, who was lying on the snow, saw that Gong Yi didn't say anything. He stood up, turned around, and ran towards a highway. Gong Yi took 2 steps forward and raised his fingers slightly. Mei Guiyuan, who had already run several meters away, was hanging in the air with his feet again. He covered his neck with both hands and felt suffocated. Mei Guiyuan's eyes were full of disbelief. Indifference is also an accomplice. Gong Yi thought about it for a long time and decided that Mei Guiyuan was guilty. Eighth Uncle and others, who were squatting in a straight line in the distance watching the excitement, took a long time to react. A tow trucker asked doubtfully, is Mei Guiyuan dead? Uncle 8 nodded, holding a melon in his hand. Strangled, probably. When a body falls to the ground, there is no need for the cleaning team to clean it up. In City D, a garbage truck slowly drove out, scooped up Mei Guiyuan's body with a large shovel, and threw it into the garbage truck bucket behind it. Then he turned around and re-entered City D to clean up the zombie corpses. It left everyone with the ruthless back of a garbage truck. Gong Yi turned around and went back to City D, where he found his wife dancing with a long sword in the snow. The twin belly of more than 6 months old, plus Huami's recent extra appetite, has made the belly almost as big as other pregnant women's bellies that are about to give birth. But Huami held the long sword in both hands and danced the 2-meter-long sword, which weighed dozens of kilograms, into a whirlwind. When she saw Gong Yi standing beside her, she suddenly became interested and raised her long knife to chop at Gong Yi. He did not move, letting the long knife rest on his neck. He softened his sharp eyebrows and asked Huami considerately, "Are your hands sore? Let me rub them for you?" Huami curled her lips, took back the long knife in her hand, and stuck the handle into the snow. "You are so boring. Fight with me." She had no fun at all. I originally thought that she would be a little nervous after the zombies appeared, but the zombies in City D were well controlled by Gong Yi. In this freezing weather, there won't be a flood of zombies or anything like that. In fact, as more and more survivors entered City D, the number of zombies decreased. The bulk of it will be left for garrison training. The zombies that escaped from the garrison were all killed by retail investors. Huami was so pregnant that she had trouble even snatching zombies. She could only practice swordplay here out of boredom. After a lot of effort, Gong Yi came, and I wanted to fight with him, but Gong Yi didn't dodge. Gong Yi took off his black coat and put it on Huami. He lowered his eyes, looked at Huami, and then at her bulging pregnant belly, frowning and sighing. If you want to move, why not beat me up? I won't fight back. He knew that Huami was feeling uncomfortable. The girl who used to be so lively now has difficulty walking with such a big belly. Every time Gong Yi saw Huami stepping in the snow, he was afraid that her slender body would be knocked to the ground by her big pregnant belly. It's so big, it swells up like a balloon. Gong Yi had never been so frightened when he saw other pregnant women before. But now, he has many, many fears. Afraid that Huami would fall and that her belly would burst, Gong Yi felt that he might have prenatal anxiety. Really, if Huami could beat him up to stretch his muscles, Gong Yi would be very willing to be beaten by her. In the snow, Huami blinked and looked at Gong Yi, who had a serious face, as if he was thinking about something of life and death. His whole face was filled with 2 words: anxiety. Look at you now, it's like you can't live anymore. Hey, think about your daughter. Think about your son. Gong Yi raised his eyes and emphasized daughter. It's a daughter. 2 girls too. He consulted a fortune teller and it was confirmed that they were definitely 2 girls. Okay, think about your daughter. Don't be so anxious. I can eat, drink, run and jump now. Why are you so anxious? Huami rubbed Gong Yi's face, trying to wipe away the seriousness on his face. Gong Yi raised his hand, covered the back of her hand, and took her hand off his face. Take a rest today. I'll go with you. In City D, many survivors dragged their belongings with them when they teleported. Some are tents, some are bedcars. Dafu and Xiaofu also came. Each of them instantly drove a luxurious RV over. The world was changing very quickly, and the survivors spent more than 6 months experiencing several natural disasters. So they accepted the appearance of zombies and accepted it quickly. Coupled with the positive publicity and encouragement of the garrison, all the survivors of the Xiangqing base under construction understood one thing. If you want to better adapt to the end of the world, you must start training yourself while the number of zombies is still within a controllable range. Because no one knows whether there will be something more terrifying in the future. Now there are still garrisons in D City to control the situation. What if they can't control it in the future? Who knows? Dafu and Xiaofu also bought a luxury version of the pop-top double extension off-road RV for Huami. They formed a temporary safe zone for survivors deep in City D. This way you don't have to leave City D and go out of the city to rest. On the way back to the RV, Gong Yi mentioned that Mi Guiyuan had been killed by him. Huami was supported by Gong Yi, who treated her like a fragile doll and carefully protected her as she moved forward. She thought about it and asked Gong Yi, "Where's Zhong Zimo? Can he be killed?" In fact, both Mi Guiyuan and Zhong Zimo deserve to die. Zhong Zimo played a role in Qin Xiaolan's matter. However, Qin Xiaolan's subjective reasons for wanting to kill Huami are the majority. Zhong Zimo played a role in fueling the flames behind the scenes. Even so, Zhong Zimo deserves to die. Keeping such a person will be a disaster. Gong Yi shook his head. He has already run away. I sent people to chase him on the Hunan highway, but he got the message and ran away very quickly. Now Gong Yi was too busy to handle everything, and the snow was getting smaller and smaller, and the temperature did not continue to drop. This means that the temperature has dropped to its lowest point. Then the temperature will gradually rise every day thereafter. Now the rising temperatures are not good news for the survivors. At least there are thousands or tens of thousands of cities, and City D is just one of them. Who knows how many zombies there are in other cities? Mei Guiyuan said that Chen, who has a new group of people with special abilities. Gong Yi helped Huami into the RV. He lit a fire in front of the smokeless wood stove, his brows tightly locked. We must hurry up and garrison the Xiangqing base to hatch more superpowers. The future will belong to those with special abilities. If there are no more psychics in the garrison, order will collapse. Not only will the lives of the garrisons be threatened by the psychics, but even the survivors will be bullied by some psychics with evil intentions. The world is too difficult, and the living space of ordinary people is constantly being compressed. As Gong Yi finished lighting the fire, he closed the door of the smokeless wood stove. He turned his head and saw Hua Mi with one hand on her stomach, leaning against the headboard and asleep. Gluttony, sleepiness, and moodiness all tormented Hua Mi. Gong Yi tiptoed over, took off Hua Mi's shoes, and rubbed her swollen feet. Looking at his wife's sleeping face with a big belly, if Chen Hu came with the superpowers, what would happen to his wife and 2 daughters? When Zhong Zimo received the news that Mi Guiyuan had been killed by Gong Yi, he decided to take the group of internet celebrities with him and run to City C in the opposite direction of City E. Go through City C and then take a detour to City E. Near the igloo on the highway, more and more survivors appeared. Someone recognized a female star in Zhong Zimo's hand. He shouted with joy, "Wow, are you the Do Qiongxian? The Do Qiongxian who won the Best Actress award last year?" The new generation star won the Best Actress award as soon as she debuted, which shows how beautiful Do Qiongxian is. The women in Zhong Zimo's hands are all good-looking. Among the survivors, another man recognized the other women behind Zhong Zimo. Someone shouted, "I saw Tsukahara Mio. It's Tsukahara Mio, that very famous actress," was actually standing behind Do Qiongxian. The survivors gathered around. They called out the names of these women, each of whom was once a famous internet celebrity or a female star. Zhong Zimo's eyes flickered with a hint of cruelty, seeing more and more survivors surrounding them. He grabbed Tsukahara Mio from the crowd of women and threw her directly into the crowd. "Excuse me, everyone. We are in a hurry to get on the road. I'll give this woman to you. Please make way for us to replenish some supplies. It seems there is no way to leave here without giving away a woman." Tsukahara Mio shouted anxiously and tried to run, but was hugged by a survivor. The survivor shouted, "Tsukahara Mio, I often watch your short videos. Your short videos are so well shot. Ha ha ha, I never thought that there would be a day when I could actually hug a real person." Many people gathered around with envy. Zhong Zimo quickly led the remaining women, got into a car, and headed for City C. Their own car was frozen, and they had no way of leaving the gate of City D. So I had to walk to the highway. On the highway, there will be people providing chartered car services. The car was something that Zhong Zimo had already arranged. As soon as they got on the highway, it would pick up Zhong Zimo and the others and take them away. Tsukahara Mio was still shouting outside the car window. Although she is an actress, those are all short videos. She cannot satisfy so many men at one time. However, if Zhong Zimo doesn't push out a woman, he will definitely not be able to leave today. He had no time to care about Tsukahara Mio's crying. At this moment, if he was not hard-hearted, he would lose his life. Surrounded by a crowd of men, Tsukahara Mio watched Zhong Zimo leave. No, her current fate is even worse than when she was in the D City Management Building.
No.
On the bus, Zhong Zimo sat next to the driver with an expressionless face, and the women behind him all had pale faces. Some people started crying. Zhong Zimo, who was sitting in the passenger seat, turned around and growled, "Why are you crying? If you could have won the hearts of the garrison and the psychics, you wouldn't have to accept such a fate of wandering today. Or are you willing to stay and hold those men back on your own accord, instead of Tsukahara Mio?" It was exactly as my 8th uncle's tow trucker said. Being a beautiful woman is not a good thing in this world. Especially beautiful women who have a certain degree of exposure before the end of the world. Their faces are too recognizable. Even if they want to live an orderly life in the apocalypse, no survivors will be willing to give them this opportunity. Isn't Tsukahara Mio the best example? Nothing before the end of the world. After the end of the world, it was her original sin. In the bus, the internet celebrities and female stars who were crying quietly gradually stopped crying. Someone complained quietly. It was that woman named Hua Mi who harmed us. If Hua Mi hadn't hindered us, we would only have to rely on the garrison and the psychics now. If we're lucky, we'll be supported by the garrison and the psychics and won't be in danger like this. The best way out is to be supported by a man and just serve one man. The worst way out is probably to be plowed to death by the countless oxen plowing the fields. The women discussed in whispers. Zhong Zimo, who was sitting in the passenger seat, snorted coldly, "Follow me, and I'll give you this opportunity. It is said that there are many people with special abilities in the place we are going to. If there is no light in the east, there will be light in the west. When you get there, perform well and bring back a few survivors for me." Gradually, the women became completely silent. They accepted the fate that Zhong Zimo chose for them. And just behind their car, in front of the noisy ice house, Tsukahara Myo was surrounded by a large group of men. A man ripped off her clothes and was about to tease her. Someone shouted, "The garrison patrol is here." There are garrison patrols on the highway. The evils of darkness may continue despite repeated prohibitions, but when there are garrisons, the survivors at least dare not do evil openly. If they still want to stay in the Xiangqing base, at least they should not dare to bully women so blatantly. Tsukahara Myo thought she was going to face doom, but all the men around her ran away. She rushed to the garrison patrol crying, speaking in broken language, and shouting "Thank you" loudly. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saving her from such a bad fate." In the freezing cold weather, Tsukahara Myo shivered as she undressed herself and said lamely, "I want to thank you with all I have." It was much better to serve a small garrison than such a large group of men. With tears streaming down her face, Tsukahara Myo looked at the small patrol garrison with hope. But the patrol garrison walked past her without even looking at her. They stared blankly, expressionless, and didn't even say a word to Tsukahara Myo. They didn't come here specifically to save Tsukahara Myo. It is their job to patrol this highway. After today, the people in their patrol team will be replaced by other garrisons. Their team has been selected to enter City D to kill zombies. After City D, they will have stronger bodies and be able to better maintain order in the Xiangqing base. As for Tsukahara Myo, the police will come soon to take her away. This is the process, and the garrison does not need to worry about it. With tears still on her face, Tsukahara Myo ran behind the garrison for a while before being stopped by Yang Honglin, who had received the news. "Let's go and pedal the sewing machine." Yang Honglin didn't waste any words. He handcuffed the screaming Tsukahara Myo and pushed her into the car for fallen women. She would go to a shelter for fallen women, where she would be trained to operate a sewing machine, and eventually she would be assigned to work in a factory operating a sewing machine to make cotton-padded clothes. Perhaps this is the best destination for Tsukahara Myo in the end times. Compared to those actresses who were taken away by Zhong Zimo, Tsukahara Myo should have been the most unfortunate. Maybe the luckiest. I am also running very hard today. No one can be our support. The only person a woman can rely on is herself. According to Zhong Zimo's plan, the women in this bus will be sent to the superpowers in Chen Hu's hands. The end of the world has only been here for more than 6 months now, and it has not been long since people transitioned from an era of material abundance and information explosion to the end of the world. Many people are still happy about female internet celebrities and female stars. This group of female stars in Zhong Zimo's hands will definitely open up a new world for him. The car drove onto the Hunan Sea Expressway and replenished supplies at the ice house. The driver stretched out his hand and asked Zhong Zimo for 1 million. Looking at the driver, who was asking for too much, Zhong Zimo frowned. "Haven't I already paid 100,000 yuan for the car rental? Why are you asking for 1 million yuan before we even get to City C?" There really wasn't much money left in City C's account. If the price continued to rise like this, the money in Zhong Zimo's hands would soon be devalued into a string of meaningless numbers. He had to frown and carefully plan how to use the money he had. Little did I know that the driver said with a wry smile, "You know that fuel is expensive these days. In such cold weather, the prices of both gasoline and diesel have gone through the roof. You originally said you were going to City E, but you changed your route to City C and then to City E. The cost of chartering a car will definitely increase several times. In this weather and this extreme living environment, anyone who can come out to work as a rickshaw driver must have his head tied to his belt." Seeing Zhong Zimo's cold face, the driver said nothing more and pointed to the ice house in front. "If you don't believe me, Mr. Zhong, why don't you go buy the supplies yourself?" Zhong Zimo glanced at the driver and walked into the ice house. There were many survivors sitting in this ice house. Most of them had bitter and resentful looks on their faces and were wearing bulky and dirty clothes. The atmosphere wasn't great, but it wasn't so desperate that there was no hope at all. Zhong Zimo walked to the counter to buy diesel. The salesman raised his eyelids and brought a pot of diesel to Zhong Zimo, asking for 50,000 yuan. With just this small pot, it's hard to run 50 kilometers. Not to mention going from here to City C, and then from City C to City E. Zhong Zimo frowned and asked unhappily, with prices so chaotic, can you still stay under Gong Yi's management? This is simply unscientific. As a top student with experience in urban management, Zhong Zimo deeply believed that Gong Yi lacked a professional urban management commander. What a pity! If Gong Yi could accept him, he could actually help Gong Yi manage the so-called Xiangqing base. So things have turned out like this. Gong Yi has lost a management talent, and Zhong Zimo has not been able to successfully become the management commander of the Xiangqing base. It's all because of Hua Mi's obstruction. The salesperson at the ice house looked at Zhong Zimo as if he was a fool. He pointed at the small pot of diesel and explained impatiently, will you buy it or not? Forget it. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. He was still in a hurry to eat some melon seeds. After saying that, the ice house salesperson really took out a bag of plum seeds, ate them, and spit them at Zhong Zimo's feet. Zhong Zimo held his breath and really spent 50,000 yuan to buy a pot of diesel. There was no choice but to buy it. He had to go to Chernhu as soon as possible and start his grand ambitions as soon as possible. Not long after Zhong Zimo left the ice house, a group of wreckers who were resting inside began to laugh. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Who would buy a gasoline sports car now? Everyone knows that when the Xiangqing water plant was built, the plant director stockpiled a large amount of jelly water. These jelly waters contain extremely rich energy, but we are still studying what kind of energy they contain. However, the factory manager said that the jelly water could be diluted and used as fuel. A 200 milliliters bottle of jelly water can be poured into the fuel tank of a car, no matter it is a diesel or gasoline car, and it can run for thousands of kilometers. So many people remember that during the period of continuous rain in Xiangqing, the people of Xiangqing were frantically pumping jelly water. Use a pump plus condoms, and the jelly water will be piled up in the garbage dump. Although it is snowing now, as long as you are willing to dig through the snow and dig down hard, you can dig out the frozen jelly water layer. Break these jelly water ice cubes into pieces, pour them into the car's fuel tank, add some antifreeze or something, and the car will still be able to run. As for the sky-high-priced gasoline and diesel sold in the ice house, that is nothing more than a private money-making scam by the ice house salesperson. The targets of the scam are the new survivors who are not up to date with the latest news. Seeing Zhong Zimo coming out with a pot of expensive diesel, the chartered car driver rolled his eyes but didn't say anything. Looking at Zhong Zimo's stern face, he added the gas and started the car with a smile. When they arrived at the next ice house, Zhong Zimo no longer got out of the car to buy oil himself. He just gave money to the chartered car driver and asked him to buy it. The driver attentively took out hundreds of thousands of dollars from his mobile phone, went into the ice house, and came out with an oil bottle to refuel the car. The car started running. The driver didn't say what was in the pot, so Zhong Zimo naturally assumed it was diesel. The Xiangqing base under construction, the drivers on the road, the salesmen in the ice houses, and the towmen who often travel on the highway. They had already reached some kind of secret tacit understanding. No one can make it clear. Kill as many as you can. When they were about to arrive in City C, Zhong Zimo's car stopped in front of a remote ice house. As usual, the driver took hundreds of thousands of dollars from Zhong Zimo and got off the car to buy gas. Zhong Zimo stayed in the car, counting the money on his phone and in his bank account. Suddenly, several people rushed in from outside the car. The leader, Vasily, stared at Zhong Zimo with a pair of red, bloodshot eyes. It's been a long time, Secretary Zhong. He twisted his neck in a strange posture and spoke stiffly and slowly. Have you seen my brother? The one who ran out of the City Supply warehouse, the one with the scorpion tattoo? Zhong Zimo was a man of wide experience. He tried to calm himself and shook his head slowly. He recognized the man in front of him as the leader of a group of killers that Ma Jishuan brought to the City Supply warehouse and attacked Zhou Cheng. He immediately asked with concern, "What's wrong? Haven't you found her brother yet?" "Found it, but his consciousness is not very clear." Vasius scratched the back of his hand. 2 days ago, he and the remaining brothers of the organization finally caught the Scorpion brothers who had been moving. The strange thing was that his Scorpion brothers seemed to have gone mad and started scratching and biting each of them. They finally subdued the Scorpion brothers. Unexpectedly, the Scorpion brothers escaped again by accident. As for killers, they have no humanity, but have their own twisted set of values. The only ones who did not betray them were the brothers in their organization. Whether the Scorpion brothers are dead or alive, there must be an explanation. How about we walk along the way and look for your brothers along the way? Zhong Zimo extended an invitation to Vasily. He stretched out his arms and gestured to the beauties in the car behind him. "You have a pastime too, don't you?" Vasily hesitated and kept scratching the back of his hand, where a patch of skin seemed to have some skin disease. It was obvious that he seemed very tired now and his mental power was not as good as before. The rest of his brothers were similar to him. Some brothers even stood outside the bus with dull eyes, scratching their ears and cheeks. It was as if some bug had crawled into my body. Zhong Zimo ignored the slightly uncoordinated movements of Vasily and the other killers. "What's the big deal? It's the end of the world. It's just an itchy skin." He pulled out a bag from under the car seat, took out a bottle of toilet water, and handed it to Vasily. "Actually, I've always admired you and wanted to make friends with you. Don't you have any goals either? Why don't we travel together in the apocalypse? That way we can take care of each other." Vasily is the leader of the killer organization. Traveling with such a capable person is a help to Zhong Zimo. Vasily took the floral water and rubbed it on the back of his hand. Zhong Zimo reached out again and pulled out a female star with deep eyes and long curly hair from the seat next to him. Pushed directly into Vasily's arms. Zhong Zimo said, "Do you remember her? Caroline Kerbero. She starred in a drama about ethics last year and won the Best Actress award." Vasily was stunned for a moment. Then he belatedly hugged the little golden figure in his arms. He seemed to have little interest in women's bodies. But this woman smelled of meat. Weird meaty smell. Vasily's heart beat faster for no apparent reason. Finally, Vasily's slow-reacting brain gave him a signal, and he nodded and agreed to go with Zhong Zimo. Several other killers also got on the car. Following Zhong Zimo's suggestion, several women went forward and dragged a killer into the group of them. The driver came back after buying gas and looked at the live adult love show on the bus with a frown on his face, his eyes full of disgust. As an experienced driver with many years of experience, he knew at a glance that Zhong Zimo was not a good person. Now, a few more bandits have arrived. These people made his bus full of smoke and dirt. The driver secretly kept it in mind and complained about the strangeness of the car in the driver group all the way while driving. The car arrived at City C as planned, and then changed to another car from City C to City E. At this time, the snow stopped. In City D, in the temporary safe zone, Huami woke up from her sleep. Outside the car window could be heard the cheers of the survivors. Gong Yi, who was holding her, closed his eyes and touched her head, speaking in a low voice, "Sleep a little longer. You have to sleep whenever you want now. Otherwise, after the girls are born, you won't be able to sleep well even if you want to." Huami rested her head on Gong Yi's arm, closed her eyes, listened carefully, and asked, "What are they so happy about? The snow has stopped?" Gong Yi hummed and said solemnly, "They're happy that not only has the snow stopped, but there are no new natural disasters this time. Over the past 6 months, the survivors have experienced one natural disaster after another. The weird weather caught people off guard and made them exhausted from dealing with it. But this time, after the snow stopped, there was no earthquake, no continuous darkness, and no thick fog. Apart from the extremely easy-to-kill zombies, they were glad that mankind finally had a chance to breathe." In the dim light, Huami and Gong Yi looked at each other. Huami frowned and was about to speak when a string of letters suddenly flashed in front of her eyes. "Start security scan. Completion of Security and Defense Works Defense Project Rating. Construction of the high-level protection wall of Xiangqing Base completed. Activate 18 square meters of black soil in the supermarket backyard. Please select a location for the black soil. When a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X30, 6 Huami breathed a sigh of relief. Boss Bao and Huijing have finally finished repairing the wall. This wall cost Huami a huge amount of money and employed a large number of survivors to build it day and night. It was finally repaired before the snow stopped. It's good news. Gong Yi also smiled. He stood up and told Huami, I'll go arrange the protection on the city wall. You can get some more sleep. After Gong Yi left, Huami placed the dozen or so square meters left from the last upgrade, as well as the 18 new square meters of black soil acquired this time, into the level 35 number 2 warehouse. The snow stopped, and Huami's level 35 number 2 warehouse was filled with trees. She had to run to several teleportation points every day to clear the trees out of the warehouse. If the weather warms up, the trees will become less depleted. So, Huami didn't plant trees this time, but only planted grains and cereals. Just after I finished planting the grains, there was a knock on the RV door. Huami got up with her bulging belly and opened the door. Outside the door was a strange couple. The wife looked smart in a fur-collared leather jacket and held a snow shovel in her hand. She looked up and down at Huami's belly and laughed. Why are you still coming to D-City to pan for gold when your belly is so big? The scope of the temporary safe zone is getting larger and larger, and many strangers will use teleportation tickets to come here. Many people don't know Huami. They only know that in the temporary safety zone of City D, Huami's pop-top off-road double extension RV is definitely a cool sight. Huami held her belly and stood in the RV, not answering the woman. He just asked, "What's the matter?" The woman in the leather jacket smiled and said, "It's nothing serious. The snow finally stopped, and we wanted to organize a celebration. Where's your husband?" For a woman with such a big belly to come to such a dangerous place like City D, the only logical thing for her to do is to go out with her husband. Huami replied, "I'm out of town for something." The woman in leather jacket said, "Oh," and asked, "So, he left you here alone? Isn't he worried that you might get into danger?" The man standing next to the woman in leather jacket is her husband. His eyes passed through Huami and cast an inquiring look into the RV. Before Huami could answer the leather-clad woman, the man said, "Look, I'm planning to organize a team of survivors in City D. I want to take this opportunity to celebrate the cessation of snow and gather all of us who are killing zombies in City D together. Everyone can discuss together how to clean up the zombies in City D as quickly as possible before the snow melts." The man's words made Huami, who was originally impatient, look at the man carefully. She stroked her belly and asked, "The garrison will have made arrangements. If the survivors act rashly, they may be in danger." The woman in leather jacket smiled indifferently. "We are very powerful. How could there be any danger? We can't be suppressed by the garrison all the time, right?" The woman in leather jacket is named Guise, and she looks like a straightforward person. Her man's name was Ni Shuiwen, and his eyes were always looking into the RV. After visiting Huami, he turned around and went to the RV next door to continue visiting. Before leaving, Guise warmly invited Huami, "Let's meet tonight after we kill the zombies. Call your husband over." She pointed out a direction to Huami. Huami didn't say she would go, nor did she say she wouldn't go. She just stood in the RV like an ordinary pregnant woman, with a confused look on her face. "What are you thinking about?" Shirt Saisha walked over with 2 axes on his back. "Huami, this couple is really interesting. They visit everyone in D-City one by one." Shirt Saisha turned around and looked at the backs of Guise and Ni Shuiwen. They started their activities 2 days ago. They are very active and seem to have big ambitions. In fact, there are many survivors who responded to this couple. Because zombies are easy to kill, and there are a lot of them. 100 crystal cores can be exchanged for 100,000 yuan, which can then be spent freely at the vending machine. Don't buy those high-priced materials that are a rip-off, or go directly to the warehouses in Xiangqing, City B, and City C to wholesale materials. The supplies are actually not that expensive. 100,000 yuan can last a long time. At the beginning, the number of zombies was enough to satisfy the survivors' appetite. However, as more and more survivors entered City D, The survivors became more and more skilled in killing zombies, and there were gradually not enough zombies to kill. This is very frustrating. So the survivors began to think about how they could obtain more crystal cores. Use crystal cores to exchange for more money and then buy more supplies? And more energy drops. Yes, the energy drops produced by Xiangqing water plant can greatly increase the strength of ordinary survivors. And after drinking it, the human body has no side effects. Therefore, bottled energy drops have become the best-selling item in D-City's vending machines. But this 200 milliliters bottle of energy water drops costs 100,000 yuan. But a bottle of energy drops can allow survivors to kill thousands of zombies. As long as there are enough zombies, they can kill more. So this is the current situation in City D. There are many survivors and few zombies. After listening to Shirt Saisha's words, Huami nodded. Let's go to this party tonight and see. Kill today's zombies first. The two siblings, Dafu and Xiaofu, who lived in the RV next door, each carried 2 machetes on their backs. They both came over. Although they are young, they both come from wealthy families and were sent to City D by Yi Rong to train with Huami. The people who follow Huami are all very aware. They know that the environment is changing with each passing day. If they want their children to win at the starting line, they must stand at the forefront of the trend. As long as you stand in the right place, any pig can take off. After a while, Qin Zhen and Yu Mengmeng also came with their children who were a few months old. They don't come here often, but whenever they have time, they will bring their children and try to kill 1 or 2 zombies at close range. Before the ice and snow melt, we must adapt to this era as much as possible. Huami, with her bulging belly, led the group of children and their mothers out of the temporary safe area. This group of people is simply a strange landscape in the temporary safe zone. The strong and powerful man couldn't help but sneer. What's this for? When did D-City become so safe? Among Huami's group, the most normal one is Shirt Saixia. But the lenses of the glasses on Shirt Saixia's face were thicker than the bottom of a beer bottle. Once a myopic person takes off his glasses, he becomes half-blind. Can she really kill zombies? Do they really dare to kill zombies? And Ai Shuiwen, who was far away, watched Huami and the others leave the safe zone and complained to Guisei, "Why did you invite that pregnant woman? She is simply a burden. When she joins our team, we'll have to take care of her." And the group of old ladies around her. Our team wants to be high-tech and sophisticated. Who will join our team if we have so many old ladies around us? Guisei glanced at Anai Shuiwen and frowned slightly. She actually felt a little regretful. Look at the RV that the pregnant woman lives in. It's so luxurious and majestic. I thought her husband was some big shot. Guisei and Anai Shuiwen knocked on the cars and tents of every survivor in the safe zone one by one. They extended an invitation to everyone. The only thing I regret is knocking on Huami's RV. I really don't understand how a woman with such a big belly can own such a nice RV. Her husband is really awesome, but after observing for such a long time, he hasn't shown up. Instead, a pregnant woman, a group of mothers, a bespectacled frog, and 2 half-grown children were carrying weapons, ready to leave the safe zone and kill zombies. Isn't it scary? Fortunately, there are not many zombies in City D. Otherwise, the next time they leave the safe zone, they will see the corpses of the pregnant, weak, and disabled people torn to pieces by zombies.
Pregnant, Huami, weak, Dafu and Xiaofu più babies, disabled, Shichaixia.
Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Shirt Saixia, who was wearing beer-bottomed glasses, belatedly asked, "Why do I feel like so many people are watching us?" Qin Zhen hugged Qin Jinxiang, who had just come out of the incubator, and nodded. "You're not wrong. There are just a lot of people watching us." Qin Zhen answered calmly. As the most important person in City C, what storms and waves has she not experienced? It's just that everyone around her is looking at her with mockery. These men who mocked them as weak, pregnant, and disabled never thought about whether any of their achievements could compare to one of these weak and disabled women. Among these women, except Yu Mengmeng, each woman was a capable person. Her character is stronger than men. Yu Mengmeng's character was a little weak, and she shrank her neck timidly. But looking at the backs of Huami and Qinjin, she hugged her son tightly. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. After all, she has followed Huami for half a year. If she wanted her child to win at the starting line, she had to follow Huami closely. When they were leaving the safe zone, a man said to Qin Zhen and Yu Mengmeng in a teasing tone, if you want to raise your children, there are other ways to go. We have a lot of men here. I think everyone knows what this means. Among this group of women, only Yu Mengmeng and Qin Zhen, who have given birth to children, are suitable for receiving customers. Shirt Saisha's appearance is not good. Yu Mengmeng's face flushed with anger, and she turned around and said angrily, who do you look down on? With the blessing of energy drops, everyone's strength will actually increase. When those with extraordinary talents and special abilities lose their advantages, everyone starts from the same starting line. Who made the teasing noise did not restrain himself at all in the face of Yu Mengmeng's anger. Instead, he laughed wildly at Yu Mengmeng. Someone shouted, do you think this is the mother going out for a picnic and a party? If you just go out like this, whether you can kill the zombies is another matter, but it will be difficult to find the zombies. There are fewer zombies and more survivors in City D now. What can this group of pregnant, weak, and disabled people do? Do they think this is a shopping mall? Huami, who was walking in the front, looked back at the laughing man in the safe zone. She said nothing, but turned the corner. After walking a few more streets, we entered the blasting point where the garrison was stationed today. From a distance, I saw Zhou Cheng leading a large group of zombies coming from the street. He waved happily toward Shirt Saixia. Xia, this is the proposal gift I brought you. It is said that there are few zombies in D City. That's because most of the space is occupied by garrisons. Gong Yi strictly controls the number of zombies in City D. He blasts open the frozen lair during the day to release some of the zombies. The garrison killed most of the zombies, leaving a small number for the survivors. Clear out all the zombies before night falls so that everyone can get some rest. This half-street of roaring zombies was Zhou Cheng's share for half a day. He brought them all and gave them to Xia. Huami stood firm, looked at the elated Zhou Cheng, then turned back and winked at Shirt Saixia. Today we will kill your zombies. The men in the safe zone were still laughing at them for not being able to find the zombies. See, it's said that we are not starting from the same starting line. They have half a street full of zombies. Shirt Saixia rubbed his face. I'm sorry, Commander Zhou may have a bit of a slow IQ. I'll talk to him, and he won't be like this again. What kind of person would use zombies as a proposal gift? Shirt Saixia rushed forward and chopped the nearest zombie to death with 2 axes. Just as she was about to talk to Zhou Cheng, the zombies staggered up again, and Commander Zhou had already started killing them. There were zombies on half of the street, standing densely together, more than the number of people during the May Day holiday. The faces turned stiff and pale under the ice, probably because they had been frozen for too long and their limbs were no longer coordinated. Some were even missing arms and legs, with their intestines and eyeballs hanging all over the ground. Shirt Saixia had no time to talk to Zhou Cheng at all. She quickly started killing as well. Seeing this, Huami behind him shouted to Zhou Cheng and Shirt Saixia, "Thank you for asking us to kill zombies today." After she finished speaking, Huami opened her hand, and a long knife appeared from nowhere. With a whoosh, she grasped it. She walked forward with a knife, and Dafu and Xiaofu followed behind with machetes, also trying to kill the zombies. Yu Mengmeng and Qin Zhen were with their children. They were not as convenient as Huami, so they followed behind and dug out the crystal cores in the zombies' brains. Occasionally, they would find opportunities to chop a few zombies, but they had to choose the right moment. During the initial training, Qin Zhen and Yu Mengmeng focused on protecting the children in their arms. The zombies on the ground were piled up one on top of another. Soon, nearby garbage trucks and sweeping robots were attracted. In the pile of zombies, Zhou Cheng occasionally jumped over, put his hand on Shirt Saixia's shoulder, and pointed at the group of hideous zombies opposite. Others go on dates to eat and watch movies, but we follow the trend and go on dates to kill zombies. Is that romantic? I'll lure so many zombies to you this afternoon. Huami, who was holding a long knife, always had a vacuum zone around him. There was not a single zombie or any debris in this vacuum zone. She laughed and said, "It's only because I followed Xia Xia that I was able to kill so many zombies. Are there more in the afternoon? Then aren't we taking advantage of Commander Zhou today?" Qin Zhen followed behind, also blowing rainbow skin with a polite face. Commander Zhou is much more generous than Commander Gong. Commander Gong has never asked us to kill the zombies in his hands. After saying this, she protected the baby swaddle in her arms with one hand and held the axe covered with bone fragments in the other hand and continued to chop off a head. Amid the terrifying roars of the zombies, Yu Mengmeng said loudly, "Ami, this is your man's fault. We are your sister group, but your man has never opened any backdoor for us. Even if we up a hole for them separately and let them take charge of the zombies at a small explosion point, it's fine. Otherwise, it would be a shame to Gong Yi's noble status." Shirt Saixia suddenly felt very proud. Zhou Cheng chopped off the head of the zombie opposite him and acted very generously. "As Xia Xia sisters, if you want to kill zombies in the future, just come to me, I will treat you." Gong Yi formulated a strict training plan for these garrison elites. Each garrison must kill a certain number of zombies every day. In order to please Shirt Saixia, Zhou Cheng pulled his share of zombies over today and had them killed by Shirt Saixia and her sisters. During the intermission, we saw that the number of zombies on the street was gradually decreasing because Huami was too fierce. Zhou Cheng forced a smile and gave Xia Xia a few instructions, then went to grab Chao Feng and Tang Yu's share of zombies to kill. Every garrison elite was annoyed to death when they saw Zhou Cheng. Chao Feng even raised his axe, killing zombies while chasing Zhou Cheng. "You're chasing women, giving your zombies to your women to kill. You don't have zombies to kill, so you come to steal mine. Get out. If you don't get out of here now, we won't even be brothers anymore." Zhou Cheng, like a rat crossing the street, ran from the street where Chao Feng was guarding to the street where Lu Xingyuan was. No zombies, no crystal cores, no brothers. Lu Xingyuan frowned and slapped a snow pile beside him. The snow fell down with a loud noise, and Lu Xingyuan blocked the road in front of Zhou Cheng. Zhou Cheng felt that he had made great sacrifices for love. If it weren't for Xia Xia and her sister group, he would be more than that. Zhou Cheng was full of barbecue and went from street to street looking for it. While the brothers are not paying attention, quickly steal a few zombies and kill them. He killed them and ran away without even having time to dig for the crystal core. He spent the entire morning stealing from all the garrisons. He has been put on the blacklist of all garrisons. Because of the promise made in the morning, in the afternoon, Zhou Cheng generously led the afternoon share of zombies to Shirt Saixia. Huami accepted it with an embarrassed smile. "Oh, Commander Zhou, how can you be so embarrassed? You don't even have any zombies to kill." In front of Shirt Saixia, Zhou Cheng straightened his back and was very generous. "It's okay. You are Xia Xia's best friends. Go ahead and kill him. I'll let you do it." He continued to steal his brother's zombie kills. But this time, all the roads were blocked by the garrison elites. Even worse, Tang Yu put up a sign at the intersection of a street he was responsible for. "Zhou Cheng and dogs are not allowed to enter as a commander, although he has already handed over his power. The former Sea City garrison commander, Zhou Cheng, has ended up like this. You really can't blame him." Shirt Saixia feels particularly proud among the sisters today. Even her boss Qin Zhen was full of emotion when he mentioned Zhou Cheng. Commander Zhou is a good man. Nowadays, there are very few men who can take care of you and your sisters. Everyone nodded and returned to the safe zone with pockets full of crystal cores, looking satisfied. A whole day passed. The survivors who were hunting zombies outside the explosion site counted the dozens of zombie crystal cores in their hands, looked up and immediately laughed. "Hey, the pregnant, weak and disabled group is back? Did you kill any zombies today? I told you to find another way earlier. Won't your pregnant women and children starve to death if you continue like this?" Nowadays, no man would bring a woman with him. If a woman goes out like this, most of the men around her are dead. In the safe zone, no survivors looked down upon Huami and her group of pregnant, weak and disabled people. But no one would touch them blatantly. After all, This city is full of garrisons, and the temporary safety zone deep in City D can be set up only because the garrisons have demarcated a safety zone here. The survivors were just venting their anger on Huami and the others, and Huami didn't bother with them. After killing zombies for a whole day, they each had hundreds of crystal cores. Qin Zhen and Yu Mengmeng wanted to take the children back to Xiangqing to sleep. There is simply no time to engage in verbal battles with these men. After Huami returned to the RV and took a shower, she took Shirtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu to the party invited by Anai Shuiwen and Guisei. When they arrived, there were already a lot of people gathered here. The vast majority were men. Even if there were a few women, they were either dressed up and snuggling in the arms of men, or dressed in androgynous clothes, similar to Guisei. When Guisei saw Huami coming with Shirtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu, his expression was lukewarm. It was as if she was certain that Huami and the others would come to curry favor with her and want to join their group. So she nodded to Huami from a distance, turned and left, as if she was afraid that Huami would talk to her. Anai Shuiwen had already started chatting with the group of men. Dafu and Xiaofu dispersed into the crowd and walked around the place. After coming back, they had almost collected all the information about the party. They whispered to Huami, Sister Ami, they want to up the ice themselves and release the zombies in City D. They have already agreed to gather the strong manpower in the safe zone and elect Anai Shuiwen as the leader. The phenomenon of survivors banding together to survive is nothing new. In a certain area, as long as there are many survivors, forming groups is a general trend. Huami thought about it, narrowed his fox eyes, and felt that this group of survivors were looking for death. Blast the ice yourself? Like Gong Yi, can they know what the current situation is more than 600 meters below the ice? He didn't know anything, and just wanted to up the ice himself. What if he accidentally created a hornet's nest, and the number of zombies in the entire city of D got out of control? It wasn't just 1 or 2 people who died. After all, zombies are too easy to kill, so it gives the survivors an illusion. They mistakenly believed that zombies were not dangerous. Everyone be quiet and listen to me. Anai Shuiwen stood on the roof of the car and said loudly to the people below, the garrison strictly controls the number of zombies. They have monopolized the zombie crystal cores. The number of zombies that actually fall into our hands is pitifully small. We have to change this situation. If we don't unite, we won't even have money to buy supplies. Someone responded, Captain and I, we all listen to you. You tell us how we should bomb, and we will do it. I have a brother who can make explosives. I'll call him over. These garrisons are really selfish. They take up the majority of the zombies, and we can only pick up what they leave. When the Xiangqing base is established in the future, I think it will also be an oligarchic base. It is no longer news that a Xiangqing base is to be built. The walls have been built, and City D is outside the walls. According to the garrison's propaganda, there will be no zombies in the Xiangqing base within the wall. The pattern of the new era is changing, but with the current dominance of the Xiangqing base, it is hard to imagine that ordinary people will have a chance to take off in the future. Unless they gain more say now, enough to compete with the garrison. So from the very beginning, when they were collecting the zombie crystal cores, they should have seized the crystal core resources. Amidst the voices supporting Anai Shuiwen, Huami turned around and said to Shirtsaixia with a cold face, there's no need to listen. Go back. This team was not worth joining, just like the countless teams she had seen in her previous life. At the beginning, they were ignorant of the immensity of the world, and many people had to die. Only those who finally crawled out of the sea of blood and corpses would calm down their impetuous character and transform into gold. Now, all of these are just cannon fodder. Shirtsaixia followed Huami and left with Dafu and Xiaofu. As a result, just as he reached the edge of the gathering place, Guisei pushed aside 3 or 2 people standing in front of him and walked over. Ami. She had heard Shirtsaixia call Huami like this, so she started calling her that too. Huami in front stopped and looked back, not knowing what Guisei wanted her to do. Guisei came over and said with a smile, it's like this. We decided to form a group. Since we are forming a group, let's see if everyone can do something for the team to the best of their ability. In fact, Guisei had been waiting for Huami to come over and get close to her. She was filled with impatience, waiting for Huami to come to her. But she also felt that dealing with this kind of team burden was a waste of her time and energy. As a result, Huami never came to see her. Seeing that the calls for forming a group were getting stronger and stronger and the cohesion had been achieved, Guose no longer wanted to wait. She took the initiative to find Huami. She just had to quickly finalize Huami's matters so that she could go back and rest. Seeing Huami didn't say anything, she just looked at her quietly. Guose smiled and said, "Look, you know your conditions.
What can you do for our team?"
As she spoke, she looked at Shirt Saixia. During the day, when Huami appeared with a group of pregnant, weak and disabled people, it was estimated that only Shirt Saixia could chop 1 or 2 zombies with an axe. If Huami and her friends RV didn't look so high-end, Guose and Anai Shuewen really wouldn't want to accept them as guests. Yes, Guose was hinting to Huami to share her RV. Huami didn't understand Guose's hint at all. She asked blankly with the swelling from pregnancy, "With someone like me joining your team, what else do you want me to do?" She has unlimited resources in her hands. Even without unlimited material gilding, she is still a good killer of zombies. So what else does she need to do? In exchange for the opportunity to join the team, Guose had never seen a pregnant woman as arrogant as Huami, especially after entering the end times. She couldn't help laughing and said to Huami, "You don't have to hide it from us. You walked around D-City today and didn't find a single zombie, did you? If they had encountered zombies, they wouldn't have come back intact. So this is the advantage of not having a team. If we can't find any zombies, I guess these old ladies won't be able to survive." As he said this, Guose looked at Shirt Saixia again. "If I remember correctly, you should have several pop-top off-road RVs. How can anyone accept that such good external conditions were given to these pregnant, disabled, and weak people?" Huami suddenly realized, "Oh, you want our RV?" Guose smiled without saying anything. Yes, that's what he meant. Huami finally understood. Next, Guose was ready to accept the RV. But Huami just said this, turned around, and continued walking forward. Guose looked a little embarrassed. She followed behind Huami and said, "If we want to form a group, we can't bring too many burdens. To be honest, we may not accept all of you who are young and pregnant. For example, Qin Zhen and Yu Mingming's 2 children, it would be better to find someone to take them there. Because they are too small, they may not be able to be raised, and they are a burden to the team. We have to find resources such as milk powder and diapers for these 2 children. Dafu and Xiaofu are old enough now, they can do some odd jobs for the team. And Huami, the pregnant woman, is actually the most useless. She can't run fast, can't jump high, can't do heavy work, and has to use her beauty to please men, even with such a big belly." Seeing that Huami is about to give birth, which team would be willing to take on such a burden as her? If Huami's RV wasn't so powerful, the first person Guose and Anai Shuewen would have rejected would have been Huami. Huami in front nodded, holding her waist, and said, "That's perfect. We actually have no plans to join you. We need to go back. It's too late today, and we are all tired," she said. Actually, they had no plans to join Anai Shuewen's team. The people around were originally chatting about their own things, and it seemed that they didn't even pay any attention to Huami and the others. As a result, when Huami said this lightly, everyone stopped talking and turned their heads to look over. Anai Shuewen, standing on the roof of the car, looked down at him. He may not have heard clearly what Huami just said, but this does not prevent Huami from becoming the focus of the whole audience. Guose had an ugly expression on his face. He stood behind Huami and shouted, "Stop." Huami looked at Guose strangely and continued walking forward. She didn't stop. What happened? In front of her, someone stretched out his hand to block Huami's way. The man had a half-smile on his face. "Hey, what's going on? How come our team is just about to be established, and someone is already causing trouble here?" Subtext: it's not easy for Huami to leave today. Huami's face turned cold. She stood in front of the man and looked around. She was blocked and was clearly in trouble, but no one around her spoke. It was all tacitly agreed. She couldn't leave smoothly today. Huami turned around, looked at Guose, and said in a cold voice, "Want to keep him by force?" Or do you want to rob him? Your group hasn't been established yet, right? What, are you planning to kill someone in D City? Shirt Saixia was standing next to Huami. She sneered. You think there are no garrisons here and you can do whatever you want, right?
Come if you can.
She is not someone who can be easily messed with now. There are at least 8,000 zombies that died under Shirt Saixia's axe. She has never killed anyone with these 2 axes that she got for free when she bought them for 10 crystal cores. It seems that Shirt Saixia is very bold. Guorsei's expression paused, and he looked at Shirt Saixia carefully again. In Huami's entire team, only Shirt Saixia seems to have some fighting ability. If they force their way in, it would easily attract the garrisons patrolling outside the temporary safety zone. She winked at the man who stopped Huami, put on a smile, walked forward, and said to Shirt Saixia with a smile, I see that you are also very capable. Why don't you choose a better team to live with? Don't worry, you can kill zombies. If you join our team, you don't have to pay any entrance tickets. Guosei believed that Shirt Saixia could not refuse this. Being with Huami and the others is a burden to Shirt Saixia. If Shirt Saixia was a smart person, she should know that choosing to follow Guosei was the wisest choice. Because Shirt Saixia was wearing glasses that were thicker than the bottom of a beer bottle, it was impossible to see the expression in her eyes. Just listen to her. Your team is too dangerous, and I have no intention of joining. There was a strong hint of sarcasm in her tone. Guosei had an illusion for a moment. Was Shirt Saixia talking about their own team of pregnant, weak, and disabled people, or was she talking about the team that An Shuewen was going to form? Someone laughed and said, We have so many people. How could there be any danger? You are the ones who are in danger. Shirt Saixia couldn't help but ask loudly, What if a mountain or sea of zombies are blown out? You have never thought about this problem. You just want to form a team, and do this and that. I really don't see how this team can be safe. Not only do I not want to join you, I now want to stay away from you. Her words made Guosei's originally gentle and decent expression suddenly look extremely ugly. Even though he didn't want to provoke the garrison, Guosei couldn't help but clench his fists. I advise you to think carefully before you speak. No one here will help you, idiot. Idiot, these 2 words made Shirt Saixia couldn't help laughing. She looks like a nerd with no good looks. But in fact, many people have forgotten that the university that Shirt Saixia was admitted to is one of the top universities. The law department of their school is extremely difficult to enter. People like her, upon graduation, went straight into the management level of City C and served Qingjin. This proves something. This proves that her IQ is higher than the average human IQ level. You can say I'm ugly. You can say I have an unpleasant personality. Shirt Saixia spoke slowly, but you said I was an idiot. I don't admit that. If he was really an idiot, he would give up Huami and join Guosei today. What you're going to do now is, in my opinion, extremely stupid. One by one, strong men stood up and came closer. They all looked threatening. Huami held her belly and moved her neck. Do you dare to do it? If you want to hit me, then hit me. If you don't want to hit me, then let me go back to sleep. Who are you threatening? Human beings are accustomed to using common hatred of the enemy to unite themselves and their companions. All it takes is a simple reason to collectively target the same person. No matter how weak and innocent this person is. The more they work together to bully such weak and innocent people, the more it proves their friendship and strength. This principle is actually applicable at all times. This is especially obvious in the end times. The man standing in front of Huami pushed her towards him. You are so arrogant. Huami stepped back, turned around, and with a whoosh, she drew out her long sword and cut the man who pushed her in half. He knew she was pregnant, and her belly was already so big, but he still pushed her. Isn't this meant to take her life? Blood was drawn as soon as the knife was cut, and no one could even see clearly how Huami, a pregnant woman, took out the knife. After killing her, you can go and rest. Shirt Saixia, who was standing with his back to her, skillfully drew out the 2 axes behind him. Even Dafu and Xiaofu drew out their machetes aggressively. It is not as easy as imagined to bully them today. Guosei's eyes gradually became cold, yet full of meaning. Just as she was about to speak, and Ai Shuewen jumped down from the roof of the car. What happened? He smiled and came to Guosei's side. Guosei was about to speak, but Ai Shuewen grabbed her hand and signaled her to be silent. He came in front of Saixia and glanced at Huami's back with a smile. Oh, look, today is such a nice day. Why is there such a commotion? I just walked away for a while, and something so big happened. He saw it all just now. He even stood on the roof of the car and saw clearly how the conflict arose. It was not until he was sure that Huami was not an ordinary pregnant woman that Ai Shuewen came out to smooth things over. When Guosei saw Ai Shuewen's attitude, she instantly understood what Ai Shuewen meant. Then, Guosei's expression changed very quickly, and she returned to her initial calmness, smiling generously and saying, "It was all a misunderstanding. How could it lead to a death? Anyone who has the courage to kill is definitely not an ordinary person. Bringing such a person into their team will definitely be a boost to the team they are about to establish. Even if he cannot be brought into the team, there is no need to offend people like Huami." Huami held the handle of the long sword with one hand and turned around, with blood still on her face. She opened her mouth and asked Ai Shuewen, "Can you let him go?" Before she finished her words, a man behind Huami suddenly jumped up and said, "You witch, you killed my brother." Most of those who can come to City D do not come alone. Many of them come in groups. The survivors invited by Ai Shuewen today did not go through any screening, and anyone could participate, whether it was a pregnant woman like Huami or a brother with malicious intentions. Unfortunately, the man that Huami had just hacked to death had a brother. Just when everyone thought Huami was going to be attacked from behind, Huami raised the long sword in his hand again. She just casually slashed back, and the man who attacked her was hacked to death with another knife. This time, Huami did not insert the long knife into the snow again. Instead, she glanced at Ai Shuewen and Guosei, turned around, and walked towards her RV. When someone tried to stop her on the road, she stabbed him with her knife, making it clear, anyone who stops her will die. The person who tried to stop her withdrew his hand unconsciously. Saixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu backed away and left the gathering place little by little. Ai Shuewen originally wanted to persuade Huami to stay, but seeing the situation today, 2 people have died. The men at the scene all looked at Huami with deep and vigilant eyes, and full of murderous intent. He would probably offend a lot of people if he tried to keep Huami. So Ai Shuewen let Huami go with a smile. Some people looked unconvinced and muttered something. This pregnant woman actually killed 2 people. This is simply outrageous. Her methods are too evil. If we let her stay here, our lives will be in jeopardy. The person who said this seemed to have completely forgotten that the 2 dead men were the ones who attacked Huami first. After hearing this, Ai Shuewen advised, "We should not waste time here. We should unite to face the outside world. The most urgent task is to up more zombies and obtain more crystal cores. You think Ami is a dangerous person, but think about it from another perspective. If we encounter danger, with her there, wouldn't our chances of survival be greatly increased?" Just looking at the way Huami danced with the sword, even though he had a big belly, he handled it as smoothly as flowing water and easily took away 2 lives. I must have practiced it before. This kind of martial artist is more useful to the team than a strong and powerful man. If everyone forms a group, Huami can still protect everyone. So if you think in this way, there is no need for anyone to fight to the death with Huami now. After Ai Shuewen's explanation, everyone suppressed their dissatisfaction, even though they were dissatisfied. Indeed, the purpose of their gathering tonight was to up more zombies and obtain more crystal cores. Losing your life here for no reason is not worth it. Ai Shuewen gave Guosei a wink, and the couple gathered together again to continue enjoying the future. In the future, they can blast open the frozen lair by themselves and release the zombies inside. There are endless zombies to kill and endless crystal cores to hunt. There is endless money to be exchanged and endless zombies. Compared with these, the fact that 2 people were just killed by a pregnant woman doesn't seem to be a big deal. After all, the city was littered with frozen corpses. Just waiting for the list of people joining the group to be compiled, the survivors in City D left one by one. It was already late at night. Looking at the moon that he finally saw again, Anai Shuewen told Guise, who was making the bed in the back of their pickup truck, take some supplies tomorrow and go look for that pregnant woman. I think she has a complicated background. At least it's not as simple as we thought before. Guise let out a breath of relief with lingering fear. Fortunately, we didn't offend that pregnant woman to death today. Look, she didn't even blink an eye and even chopped 2 people. If a fight really broke out today, it would definitely attract the garrison. Talking about this, Guise felt very lucky and turned back to Anai Shuewen and said, "You're talking about this pregnant woman. She's quite amazing. I didn't expect her to be a bronze player. But she turned out to be a king after she made a move." There was still no snow on the second day, and the survivors remained in high spirits. But on this garrison side, the atmosphere was heavy and everyone was on high alert. Gong Yi called Huami and began to conduct strict investigation inside the newly built wall of Xiangqing Base. Anyone who makes unusual movements will be taken away by the garrison and placed under guard and observation in a specially designated area. After all the garrison elites were sent to City D to kill zombies, ordinary garrisons were also sent over by Gong Yi. There are more garrisons in City D. Because no more snow, it means that the permafrost is about to melt. So, what are about to appear will not be the zombies in a city called D. If the snow melts, it won't just melt one city. The future situation is very grim. Just at this time, Guise found Huami. She stood outside Huami's RV, watching Huami packing up her things and preparing to go out to kill zombies. She smiled and said, "I said, my husband has already figured out what we talked about last night, about blasting the ice together. Now is the time when we need help from people like you. My husband has already arranged a position for you. When the time comes, you will stand near the blasting point. This is definitely the location with the most zombies." She meant this as if she had no idea that Huami would reject her invitation. Huami, who had already walked out of the RV with her belly in her arms, also said to Guise with a smile, "You don't have to arrange my position. My belly is too big, and the explosion point is too dangerous. I will not participate in what you are going to do." Huami's words are from the truth, truer than pearls. Even she herself didn't dare to go near the blasting point. When Gong Yi wanted to blast the ice layer at a specific point, she hid far away. What's more, it's a fake team like Guise. I'm not afraid of zombies being blown up, but I'm afraid of not controlling the dosage of explosives and blowing up Huami, who is standing next to me. She couldn't react even if she wanted to teleport. Guise was stunned for a moment and watched Huami lock the car door. She came up and said to Huami, "Don't you want to kill more zombies? Many people in our team came to my husband and asked to be closer to the blast point so that they can kill the zombies when they come out of the ice. Everyone knows that the farther away from the explosion point, the fewer zombies there are. Looking at the current situation in City D, we can only garrison there to blast the ice layer. Once the zombies come out, they will be completely eaten up by the garrison elites near the blasting point. The ordinary survivors were already far away from the danger zone of the garrison. On average, each person can only kill about 10 zombies a day. If you are unlucky, there will only be 5 or 6. Huami frowned slightly and listened to Guise talking. She took a deep breath and advised, "Actually, I'm not saying, why are you so anxious now? There will always be a chance for you to kill zombies. When that happens, I'm afraid you won't be able to kill all the zombies. The number of zombies you have now has been scientifically evaluated by the top management of Xiangqing Base. It is enough for you to practice." Thanks to the initial material support, Xiangqing and City B gathered a large number of pre-apocalyptic talents. These talents together constitute the current Xiangqing Base think tank. In addition, there are many talented people in Gong Yi's garrison team, both civil and military. They went through a systematic discussion, taking into account the speed of the zombies and the current physical fitness of ordinary people, and finally came up with a scientific ratio. For an ordinary person, if he kills 5-10 zombies a day, the crystal cores he earns can fully meet his daily material needs. Ordinary people can use the rest of the day to study the garrison's internal reference materials. The internal reference materials are all about the experience of the garrison elites fighting zombies, which is very worth learning. including Huami herself. She would find a way to get each issue of internal reference materials and collect them. Even though she had been reborn once, she still felt that the experiences in these internal reference materials were worth reading over and over again. People, there is no end to learning. Huami looked at the young and impetuous Guisei and said earnestly, "Now is still your training stage. You have time to earn crystal cores." These are words from the heart, and Huami hopes Guisei can understand them. However, Guisei didn't understand, and she couldn't help but sneer. "There are several zombies a day. I don't know whether to say that the garrison feels sorry for us, or that the garrison doesn't think highly of these zombies and lets us kill them. Ami, you are a great person. My husband and I think highly of you. I think you should be able to understand our frustration. The more powerful the ordinary survivors are, the more dissatisfied they are with the garrison's current practices. They clearly have the ability to kill more zombies, but because of the selfishness of the garrisons, they can only kill a small number of zombies every day. Or are they the zombies that slip through the gaps between the garrisons?
Why?
Who can accept this?" Huami shook her head, but not everyone is that powerful. The reason why the top students can become the top students is because there are few people. What Gong Yi wants is to improve the overall combat effectiveness of the survivors. On this basis, as the last line of defense for mankind, the garrison needs to seize every minute and every second to train itself. This is not selfish. Huami looked at Guisei. "Have you ever thought that if you blast the zombies out of the frozen layer, you may be able to kill a lot of zombies? But what about those who are weaker than you? What if the zombies get out of control and run out of City D, endangering people outside City D? There are still many people who dare not enter City D. They even tremble with fear when they hear the word zombie. Don't doubt it, this is the real reaction of most people to zombies. Those who had the courage to enter City D must have been braver than ordinary people before the end of the world." Guisei smiled indifferently. "We have killed all the zombies in D City, and those zombies will not run out of D City." So no matter what Huami said, Guisei and the others decided to form a group, break away from the control of the garrison, and up more zombies to make money. Seeing that this logic didn't make sense, Huami shrugged.
"It's up to you then."
"I choose not to join you. Gong Yi's idea is still good. There is nothing more relaxing than moving forward based on other people's experience." He asked the garrison elites to write down their experiences and publish garrison internal references so that ordinary survivors could learn while killing zombies. But people like Guisei must use their blood and tears to sum up the experience of killing zombies. In their eyes, stopping them means stopping them from getting rich. Then why did Huami take the trouble to stop him? She wanted to leave, and no matter how Guisei invited her, she had no intention of joining. Guisei was so angry that his face was distorted. What on earth is she bragging about? Guisei looked at Huami's back, full of confusion. Considering Huami's condition and her big belly, Guisei and Anai Shuewen would have chosen her because she was good at killing people. I'm afraid that no team will take in a pregnant woman like Huami. Because of Huami's refusal, Guisei had no choice but to return to Anai Shuewen dejectedly. Hearing Huami's refusal, Anai Shuewen was so angry that he laughed. "We didn't even consider that she was about to give birth and wouldn't be able to kill zombies, but she actually despised us. Judging from Huami's big belly, she will probably give birth soon. It would be a big problem if women could still get pregnant in the apocalypse. How will Huami kill zombies after she gives birth to a child? When she goes out to kill zombies, should she find someone to help her look after the child?" At this time, the importance of the team is reflected. Although Huami says no now, she will regret it one day. Guisei didn't know what to say. She was the one who didn't handle this matter properly. But now it is clear that Huami is not someone who is easy to mess with. Even if they are dissatisfied with Huami's rejection, it is not easy for them to openly cause trouble for Huami. Let her be alone. Guisei tried to persuade Anai Shuewen to calm down. She has such a big belly. She will be vulnerable at some point. When the time comes, we can go find her again. Maybe she will change her attitude. Anai Shuewen thought about it and felt that it made sense. He looked at Guisei, who was making the bed in the back seat of the car. His eyes gradually deepened, and he walked forward and hugged her from behind. He threw her onto the bed in the back of the car. Their cars are narrow and far less comfortable than RVs. If they roll slightly, they will hit the debris on both sides of the car. As the car moves, the objects hanging on both sides will fall off. Gwase was a little annoyed, and Ai Shuewen didn't like using condoms and would always put it inside her. At this time, if she got pregnant, it would be a disaster she couldn't imagine. Therefore, Gwase had no interest in this kind of thing, even resistance from the heart. So, how did Hwami manage to stay alive until now? Gwase lay on the bed and couldn't help but think of Hwami's big belly. Perhaps Hwami is a little more powerful than she imagined. But such a powerful person chose not to join in Ai Shuewen's team, which made many survivors in this team feel relieved. No matter how powerful Hwami is, she is still a pregnant woman. Being a pregnant woman will sooner or later become a burden. So she chose not to join, and that was fine. It was in such a daily routine that suddenly one day, when Hwami was still talking to Saishia in the RV, an explosion sounded. Most of the survivors in the temporary safe zone became excited. Someone shouted loudly, "It exploded, it exploded, there are so many zombies." More survivors took out their weapons and headed towards the direction of the explosion. Hwami and Saishia walked out of the RV and looked in the direction where the survivors were flocking, with cold expressions on their faces. When a survivor ran past them, he tagged Hwami and said, "I heard that you refused to join our team. Hey, there's no place for you among the zombies that are blown up this time. Don't even think about getting a bargain, you pregnant woman." The tone is very bad, as if he was afraid that Hwami would come and take advantage of the situation. Before Hwami could say anything, Saishia said angrily, "Don't worry. Even if we up a hole ourselves, we won't take advantage of your leaks." The two were also planning to go out of town to kill zombies today. As a result, all the survivors in the entire safe zone ran excitedly towards the civilian explosion site. All the zombies in the entire city of D also ran there. Just as Hwami and Saishia took Dafu and Xiaofu out of the safe zone, they saw Gwase running back from outside with a small group of survivors. When she saw Hwami, she didn't even say hello and hurried back to the safe zone, finally coming out with a medicine box. Hwami raised her hand and stopped Gwase. "Did any of you get scratched or bitten, or were you just injured?" All the survivors went to the blasting point, hoping to kill a large number of zombies, earn a large number of crystal cores, and exchange them for a large amount of supplies. But behind them, there are also a large number of zombies. If you are not careful, you will be surrounded by zombies. In this situation, it is normal for survivors to be caught and bitten by zombies. Gwase's forehead was covered with sweat. She waved at Hwami, "Get out of the way." Hwami dodged sideways and immediately took out the long sword in her hand, knocking the medicine box in Gwase's hand away, and it fell into the snow behind Hwami. When a survivor went to pick up the medicine box, Hwami held his long sword horizontally and shouted, "I'm asking you a question. How did you get hurt? Were you bitten by a zombie, or was it some other reason?" A survivor yelled at Hwami, "What does it have to do with you? Why do you come out to make trouble? We are busy rescuing people. If you don't help kill the zombies, just don't get in our way. If our brothers in the group turn into zombies, it will be all your fault." After hearing what he said, Hwami understood and immediately told the two children, Dafu and Xiaofu, "Get some garrisons over here. Someone here has been bitten by a zombie."
Ami.
Gwase's face was serious, with murderous intent in his eyes. "What do you mean? Are you really going to go against our group?" Hwami took a deep breath and sneered, with murderous intent in his eyes. "Before you blew up the ice without permission, you should have thought about this possibility. If a survivor is bitten by a zombie, what should be your solution? What's the point of carrying a medicine box to save people now? I advise the rest of you to go back to Xiongqing Base in the next 2 days and calm down for a few days. The teleportation point of Xiongqing Base has been isolated. Although the people who were teleported there are in the safe zone, they will not be allowed to enter the base. They need to be observed for 48 hours before they can be placed in the base." Hwami's words successfully angered Gwase and others. Several men behind Gwase rushed towards her. "You stinky witch, I'm giving you face. You really think you're an important person. However, before they could get close to Huami, she killed them one by one. Kill all these men. They were not killed, and their lives were spared. Looking at the man lying on the ground, Huami held a long knife in her hand, with blood dripping from the blade. She raised her clear eyes and looked at Guisei. I'll say it again. The Garrison internal reference clearly states that if you're bitten or caught by a zombie, ordinary medicine is completely useless. There is no specific medicine that can cure the zombie poison. If you can't guarantee that your people will evolve into mutants, tie them up. After 48 hours, it will be clear whether they are human or zombie. Guisei shook her head, her eyes full of hatred towards Huami. What are you talking about? We should at least give him the most basic treatment, right? You hurt people whenever you make a move. It's simply horrible. It was as if these men who rushed over had no intention of hurting Huami. Huami raised her knife and chopped the medicine box on the snow into pieces. Shirt Saixia drew out an axe and guarded the entrance to the temporary safety zone in City D together with Dafu and Xiaofu. Most of the survivors placed all their belongings in the temporary safe zone. If they want to teleport back to Xiangqing, they must first run to the safe zone to get their belongings. In this situation, Huami would definitely not let the survivors in City D teleport back to Xiangqing so easily. She would stop as many as she could. Otherwise, if all these survivors were to return to Xiangqing instantly, it would also increase the difficulty of garrisoning at the Xiangqing monitoring point.
Guo pointed a finger at Huami.
Her face was cold, and there was anger in her eyes. But Guisei's lips just moved, and he didn't say anything to provoke Huami. She turned around and ran towards Anai Shuewen on the snow. Guisei had no time to care about the men wailing on the ground. Shirt Saixia looked at Guisei's back. Ami. She must have sent someone there.
Can they win?
If we say that last time, those people in Anai Shuewen's team chose to keep quiet. This time, it was obvious that they would not let it go so easily. Guisei hurriedly ran towards the direction where the survivors were gathered. But the situation had changed since she left. The ice layer was blown up before, and zombies swarmed out. The survivors in front had gone crazy killing. Guisei and Anai Shuewen were quickly separated. Guisei led a team of survivors alone, and was pushed out by the situation. Little did they know that while their team was killing zombies in the front, there were half a street of zombies wandering around behind them. By the time Guisei led the team to kill all the zombies and rushed out, many survivors were already injured. But overall, the survivors still had the upper hand at the time. But now she ran towards the place where the survivor was injured, and there was no trace of the survivor there. From time to time, a few zombies would appear. A few streets away, the roars of zombies could be heard one after another. Guisei didn't know what was going on either. She didn't even know where her injured teammates had gone. The development of the situation here made Guisei a little confused. She killed the zombies on the street and called Anai Shuewen. But the call was never answered. After a while, I finally saw a few survivors covered in wounds, dragging groups of zombies, coming from another street. As soon as they saw Guisei, they shouted happily, "Sister Gua, Sister Gua." As they shouted with joy, the last survivor suddenly fell to the ground, his whole body twitching, his eyes rolled up, and most of the whites of his eyes were exposed. Everyone worked together to drag up the twitching companion who had fallen to the ground and continued to run towards Guisei. Guisei's eyelids were twitching. Although the zombies were easy to kill, these survivors were all injured. She had been running around today and hadn't eaten anything yet, so she felt very tired. As Gua southeast retreated toward another street, he reached into his waist bag. There is a bottle of energy drops there. After taking a sip of energy drops, her strength will be greatly improved. Guisei took a deep breath and touched his waist with his fingers, but didn't feel anything. Where is her energy drop? For a moment, Guisei's face turned pale. How come it disappeared? She clearly put the bottle of energy drops together with her waist bag. But now even the waist bag is gone. This was really a case of adding insult to injury. She had never considered this situation. What should I do if I encounter a lot of zombies and get tired of killing them? Guisei felt that the current situation was different from what the survivors, had imagined. She could only yell to the injured survivors, "Let's go. We're retreating first. Retreat all the way to the next street. Maybe you can meet other survivors and ask them to help kill these zombies. After saying that, Guise ran away. The few injured survivors following behind her could only run forward together. Someone was running, panting, and shouting, "These zombies are so persistent, we can't get rid of them no matter what we do." They all knew that zombies moved slowly, and their movement speed was not much faster than a normal person walking. But they are difficult to kill. You have to cut their necks and spines accurately. It seems simple. In fact, this is not the case at all. Even a survivor might not be able to cut off a zombie's neck with one. The longest machete on the market is less than half a meter long. In other words, if a survivor wants to get close to a zombie and cut its neck, he or she must be within 1 meter. It is not necessarily possible to cut off the zombie's neck with one. When they come into close contact with zombies, they have to avoid their hands, feet, and teeth. You also have to endure the disgusting appearance of the zombies. A knife cannot hit the zombie's neck. The zombie does not feel anything, not even a trace of pain. They can crawl out without arms or legs and bite the survivors. Can the survivors escape with broken limbs? It is not difficult to kill 1 or 2, or even a dozen zombies. The difficult ones are always the zombies that come in large groups, have no sense of pain, chase relentlessly, and can call on their friends. Gua Southeast turned to another street and then paused, her eyes wide open. On the opposite street, a large group of zombies were staggering over. Oh my God! They were all brought here by the zombies. Guise had made a breakthrough earlier today, and now that she had lost the energy drop, she felt even more exhausted. I could only run to another street again. The few survivors following behind her were also helpless. They followed Guise and continued to go to another street. Someone shouted, "Let's go back to the safe zone quickly. Let's go back to the safe zone. I have a teleportation ticket in my car." Guise also wanted to go back to the safe zone, but she didn't go back to get the teleportation gun. There were still a few bottles of energy drops in her car. She wanted to go back and get the energy drop. However, there were many twists and turns along the way. The street leading to the safe zone was blocked by densely packed zombies. These zombies are surrounding a dozen survivors. It is a team of survivors under Ni Shuewen. When they saw Guise rushing over, they also shouted happily, Sister Gua, give me some supplies, Sister Gua." Many of the zombies on this street were heading towards Guise. Behind Guise, the injured survivors were shouting frantically, "Go, go, Sister Gua, we're being tricked again." The situation is the same as what Guise encountered just now. She glanced at the besieged group of survivors on the street ahead. With a determined heart, he turned around and ran towards an empty street. At the entrance to the temporary safe zone in City D, the sound of zombies could be heard from afar. Shirt Saixia was originally worried that Guise would call for help. As a result, the helpers Guise called for did not come, but the zombies seemed to be getting closer and closer to the safe zone. She looked at Huami Dafu, and Xiaofu also looked at Huami. Before Huami could say anything, Zhou Cheng ran past them with a small team of garrisons. Suddenly, Zhou Cheng stopped and turned to look at Huami and Shirt Saixia. He stared at Shirt Saixia with his brows tightly furrowed. "Zhou Cheng? Where are you going?" Shirt Saixia thought that Zhou Cheng came to the safe zone because of a call from Dafu and Xiaofu. As a result, Zhou Cheng looked like he was just passing by. Seeing the puzzled expressions on Huami and Shirt Saixia's faces, Zhou Cheng explained, "There are survivors ahead who are being surrounded by zombies. The situation is quite critical. It would be best if you could be more obedient and return to Xiangqing base." Zhou Cheng didn't have time to say more. He received an order from Gong Yi that all the garrisons in City D should kill the zombies in different areas. It just so happened that Zhou Cheng was responsible for leading the team to kill the zombies near the safe zone. Huami opened her lips and wanted to ask Zhou Cheng where Gong Yi was now. But considering the current situation in City D, I'm afraid Gong Yi has already taken action. He barely held Zhou Cheng hostage and asked him all sorts of questions, which only wasted Zhou Cheng's time. Seeing Zhou Cheng leading the team away, the sound of fighting soon broke out at the corner of the street. It is expected that the zombies are not far from the safe zone. Shirt Saixia looked worried. What you fear will come true. Ami, should we go back to Xiangqing? It seems that Anai Shuiwen's newly formed team suffered a disastrous defeat in its first attempt to blast through the ice. Huami glanced at Shurtsaixia. How big of a deal is this? Experience it well. This is the most valuable practical teaching. Besides, if we return to Xiangqing now, we will have to be quarantined at the teleportation point for 48 hours, and we can't enter the Xiangqing base. After she said that, Shurtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu decided not to leave. Let's all stay outside the safe zone and wait. Although Shurtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu didn't know what Huami was waiting for. Soon, a survivor stumbled out from the diagonal corner of the street. A few zombies were chasing after him. Huami raised his long knife, pointed at the zombies, and said to Shurtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu, "You can go kill those zombies." Having been in the apocalypse for a long time, Huami can tell at a glance which situations allow her to take advantage of bargains. In which situations, if you take action, you will be trapped in a tide of zombies. The survivor, who has appeared now, has only a few zombies behind him, and there will not be any larger group of zombies coming out. Shurtsaixia had no doubts and took Dafu and Xiaofu forward to kill the zombies that were approaching the safe zone. Looking at the injured man again, he was already lying in the snow, twitching all over, with large areas of the whites of his eyes exposed. Huami shook her head and motioned Shurtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu to come back. This person is likely to turn into a corpse. Let's see what happens. In my previous life, if I encountered this situation, I would just kill the person directly. This is a very obvious characteristic of corpseization. But Huami was too lazy to explain to Shurtsaixia and the others. She didn't want to explain why this survivor hadn't turned into a zombie yet. Huami wants to kill someone. Is it just because this survivor showed large areas of white of his eyes and his whole body was twitching? Physiologically speaking, he is still a human being, and he should not be killed. Huami didn't want to explain this. She didn't want to say it, but based on her experience, there was absolutely no possibility that this person could become a mutant. The garrison elites are still gaining experience, so why does she have so much experience in killing zombies? No one cared about the man on the ground. Although Shurtsaixia was confused, he still took Dafu and Xiaofu and walked towards the entrance of the safe zone. Huami's hand was holding the hilt of the long sword. Her long knife was stuck in the snow. She stood alone at the entrance to the safe zone. Despite her big belly, she was like a flag. It actually gives people a sense of standing firm. Dafu turned around and pointed at the man on the snow. Look, there's something wrong with him. Xiaofu turned around and couldn't help but stretch his neck to observe the man in the snow from close range. The man kept twitching, and suddenly, a wild beast-like roar erupted from his mouth. When he raised his head, the man on the snow had a hideous face. His eyes were full of whites, and the whites of his eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of dust. He stared blankly at Xiaofu, who was closest to him, and crawled slowly and uncoordinatedly. Xiaofu didn't react at all. This was the first time she observed up close how a person turned from a human into a zombie. It seemed like just a matter of minutes and the person turned into a zombie? So scary. She was so terrified that she could not walk at all. He even seemed to have forgotten how to escape. The transformation process from human to zombie and then human to zombie kept echoing in Xiaofu's mind. It's zombies. They're humans transformed into zombies. Dafu screamed and instinctively picked up his sister. Looking at the brother and sister, it seems that they don't make any connection between humans and zombies at all. But zombies are transformed from humans. It's not the monsters that fall from the sky, but the people around you. It could be a friend, a colleague, or even a parent or child who turned into a zombie. Huami tightened her grip on the knife handle. Her white and tender fingers were swollen due to pregnancy, so the knuckles were not very obvious. She didn't move, but calmly looked at the panic-stricken expressions of the two children, Dafu and Xiaofu. The two kids must have been terrified when they saw a person turn into a zombie for the first time. It doesn't matter. Just scare them now so that when they encounter something scarier in the future, they won't faint from fright. This is what it means to win at the starting line. Originally, Dafu wanted to drag Xiaofu back, but the two siblings fell into the snow together. The male zombie on the snow was still crawling towards them. Shirt Saixia stood aside, holding an axe in his hand, not knowing whether he should chop or not. What she just saw was clearly a man. How did he become a zombie? Is there any hope? Should I chop him down? But he was still a human being, just now. In an instant, many thoughts flashed through her mind, all in a mess, making Shirt Saixia's head ache. So, will she also become a zombie? What are you waiting for? Dafu and Xiaofu are about to be eaten. A clear cry woke Shirt Saixia up. She looked towards Huami. Huami was still standing at the entrance of the safe zone, looking at Shirt Saixia with clear and sharp eyes. The zombie's claws stretched toward Xiaofu's feet. Xiaofu suddenly retracted his feet, and in an instant, Huami raised his long sword. The handle of the knife was pulled out of the snow, bringing up cold snow particles. At the same time, Shirt Saixia raised the axe and chopped off the zombie's outstretched hand with one axe. The blood flowed out, still carrying with it the warmth of a human being. After closely observing the transformation of humans from zombies, Shirt Saixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu were able to truly connect humans and zombies. This is a very novel perception. Of course, they knew that the zombies they killed were living people just like them before they became zombies. But knowing is one thing, seeing it with your own eyes is another. Just like people know what a tsunami is, but seeing its devastating power with their own eyes is beyond belief. The shock and fear in your heart must be different. Huami picked up the long sword, touched the snow with her toes, and jumped up with her huge belly. As it fell, the long knife chopped at the zombie's head on the ground. The blood was still fresh. This kind of zombie that had just transformed would not be like the zombies that had been frozen. The blood, which was as thick as yogurt, would contain ice chips. What is that? Ice blood yogurt? In the distance, Zhou Cheng led the garrison back. They killed zombies along the way, grabbed a few survivors by the collars, and threw the exhausted survivors on the snow. I watched Zhou Cheng lead the team to turn around and kill other zombies. The survivors on the snow were helpless and furious. What were you doing on the garrison? Where are you going now? It's very dangerous here. You can't leave. You can't leave. He felt very scared. He didn't know what Ni Shuiwen and his team had blown up and why there were so many zombies all of a sudden. Even if they drank a whole bottle of energy drops, they would not be able to deal with so many zombies. You always say that the garrison will protect the survivors, but look, when we were besieged by zombies, where were you? I don't know what you were doing. There are so many zombies.
Can't you see?
How could Zhou Cheng care about him? It was precisely because there were so many zombies nearby that he had to lead the team to kill zombies and save people. The survivor on the ground jumped up and was about to chase Zhou Cheng to argue. A sharp long knife was placed across his neck. Huami was like a bird with a fat belly, falling lightly behind the man. She said grimly, "Don't delay the garrison to rescue people. If you want to die, I will help you." Shirt Saixia was so angry that he swung his axe wildly. It was you rascals who wanted to blast the ice and release the zombies without permission. It was you. Now that you can't handle it, you blame the garrison for not rescuing in time. The garrison had planned to let you practice before. What were you doing? The survivor, with the long knife at his neck, turned around and trembled all over. He saw Huami behind him and forced an expression uglier than crying on his face. What do you know? You don't know how many zombies there are. No matter where we run, zombies will appear. There are zombies everywhere in the streets and alleys, everywhere. What a horrifying sight. Although zombies are easy to kill, they have to be able to kill them all. No matter how powerful the survivors are, no matter how many energy drops they have, they can never kill all the zombies. Kill one, and there's a group left. After drinking the energy drops, I had no more money to buy more. Zombies kept pouring in from all directions, even more dense than the tide. Some survivors, surrounded by zombies, simply tore up the teleportation tickets in their hands and left, without even having time to take their luggage and cars with them. Some survivors were torn to pieces by zombies right in front of them. This kind of despair and fear was something they had never experienced before. Huami looked at the frantic survivor with cold eyes. I thought you were already mentally prepared. Isn't this what you need to go through before you blast the ice without permission? Like someone goes to a noodle shop to eat a bowl of noodles, but feels it's not enough, so he orders 10 bowls of noodles. Before ordering 10 bowls of noodles, he must have a basic understanding of how much 10 bowls of noodles are and be mentally prepared. Also, are these zombies too many? Hwami tilted her head and asked in confusion. In the previous life, when the zombies appeared, they were not frozen. Overnight, Hwami was surrounded by zombies. A large area of densely packed. There are several times more zombies than those in City D. There are really not many zombies here. After they have witnessed the zombie horde attacking the city a few times, they will realize that the current scene is just for practice. But the question Hwami asked gave people a feeling of why not eat meat. The survivors sitting on the ground looked up and glared at Hwami. What are you talking about? You haven't seen how many zombies there are. If you were in such a predicament, it would be difficult for you to survive. No, I want to go back to Xiangqing. I can't stay here any longer. On the ground, some survivors had already struggled to get up and go to the safe area to get their luggage and cars. They were relatively lucky, at least they still had their lives, so they had to leave quickly. Hwami picked up the long sword, held the handle, and knocked on their knees. Her movements were so fast that no one could see clearly how she moved. The survivors knelt on one knee, feeling excruciating pain in their knees. They gnashed their teeth and looked at Hwami. What do you mean? We have never offended you from the beginning to the end. They knew Hwami and knew that someone had looked down on her and wanted to cause trouble for her. But those were other people. From beginning to end, they never did anything to do anything to Hwami. So, why did this pregnant woman make things difficult for them? They just want to live a good life. Hwami held the handle of the long knife, the blade dragging on the snow, and slowly walked towards the entrance of the safe zone. Survivors of City D cannot return to Xiangqing. No one knows whether you have been infected by zombies. The zombie's poison will stay dormant in the human body for 48 hours and then teleport back in 2 days. I won't stop it. Within 48 hours, the survivors may turn into zombies at any time. The process of corpse transformation can be very slow or very fast. But in most cases, the results will be known within 48 hours. 2 days was not hard to endure. A survivor on the ground gnashed his teeth and said, "What you did is too ruthless." There are countless survivors in D City who have already flown back to Xiang City. Some of them have been bitten by zombies. So you can't leave. The transmission point in Xiangqing is probably almost too busy right now. If you go there, you will increase the workload of Xiangqing's medical staff and garrison. Hwami held a long knife and stood across the entrance to the safe zone. I don't care about others. No one can fly back from under my nose. I'm going to say this. I'll chop off the hand of anyone who dares to tear up the teleportation ticket. After a pause, Hwami looked at the distressed survivors on the ground and said kindly, "If you have the energy to spare, you can go kill zombies. Didn't you want to kill more zombies to earn more crystal cores?" Looking at the survivors here, is anyone willing to pay attention to Hwami? In terms of their pain and despair, every word Hwami said seemed to be jumping on their bottom line. Now their knees are injured, and they have difficulty walking. How can they kill zombies? The key is, do they still dare to kill zombies? Someone gritted his teeth and said, "I have never been bitten by a zombie, and a zombie has never touched me. Why can't you let me go back to Xiangqing?" Hwami lowered her eyes and looked at him with a look of contempt. Who knows? Just because you say I haven't been bitten or scratched, I believe it? I told you not to go back to Xiangqing, so you are not allowed to go back. That's too much nonsense. Hwami plunged the long knife into the snow, save some energy, and recover your strength. If the garrison can't hold out, you can still kill a few more zombies before you die. Undoubtedly, these words made the survivors pale and gnashing with hatred. But what can hatred do? These survivors couldn't even beat Zhou Cheng, so how could they possibly beat Hwami? After a while, the garrison sent in a few survivors who were pale, in a mess, and crying loudly. Everyone was crawling in the snow, looking like they had survived some terrible disaster. Hwami watched coldly, without saying a word or trying to comfort her. Everyone in the last days has to go through this. All survivors must overcome their own psychological barriers and understand this end of the world well. If there are survivors, naturally there will be survivors who want to leave City D. But those who had teleportation tickets flew away. Those who stayed behind either had no teleportation tickets or had tickets but left all their belongings in the temporary safe zone. If we fly away now, we will lose all the supplies in the temporary safe zone. They've been busy in City D for so long, so naturally they would be reluctant to part with these supplies. I can't bear to throw it away even if I die. Some people cried, and after they felt hopeless, they stood up and headed for the safe zone. I want to go back. He was forced back by Shirt Saisha's axe. He was forced back by another axe from Shirt Saisha. Another person rushed to the safe zone. Give me back my supplies.
Aya.
Da Fu rushed towards him with a machete raised. Others tried to sneak into the temporary safety zone. Xiaofu stood behind him and drew out the sword of the heavenly sword and the dragon-slaying sword. Huami was the only one standing guard at the pass. I really think you are wasting your time. We sacrificed so much time to watch you run to Xiangqing. We are also wasting our time. She took out her cell phone and called the contractor, asking him to come and set up a circle of electric fence outside the temporary safety zone in City D. Energy. Use jelly water. The contractor was silent on the other end. It was D City. Huami asked him to go into D City to build the protective net. Huami, any difficulties?
Just tell me.
When the contractor heard this, his hands loosened, his heart trembled, and he almost dropped the phone in his hand. Of course, it's not difficult. Don't worry, Miss Hua. A big reward will always bring a brave man. I promise to complete the task. After hanging up the phone with Huami, the contractor grabbed a handful of hair and said to Huijing, "What should we do?" Miss Hua said that she wants us to go to City D to build a power grid. Huijing nodded. Go ahead, I'll go recruit workers, and I'll lead the team for this project. Having said that, he stood up and was about to leave. Mr. Bao grabbed Huijing and said anxiously, "Are you crazy? Don't you know what's going on in D City right now? The garrison has removed all the teleportation tickets that can be used to fly to City D from the vending machines. And they used a radio to repeatedly announce inside and outside the Xiangqing city wall. City D has been designated as a red danger zone, and all survivors are advised not to go there." Every minute, a large number of survivors from City D tore up their teleportation tickets and flew back to Xiangqing. The specially designated isolation and observation areas are overcrowded. Many survivors in City D took a different route and flew to other teleportation points instead of Xiangqing. They thought that if they went to another teleportation point, there would be number 48-hour observation period. However, in the end, Gong Yi's efficiency was very fast, and all the transmission points were equipped with heavy firepower garrison and guard. The isolation and observation area has already been prepared for these survivors in City D. This shows that the situation in City D is serious. You can't go there. Huijing's face was firm as he pulled his arm out of Mr. Bao's hand. Why do we have such a good life? Because Miss Hua can use us. If this matter is not handled well, Miss Hua will find someone else to do it for her. Uncle, the world changes too fast, and we will soon be replaced by more powerful people. If we don't want the old wave to die on the beach, we have to keep pace with the times. Isn't it just that I have to kill zombies while doing the engineering? I can kill them. He walked out with firm steps to recruit workers to repair the power grid in City D. Outside is Xiangqing's labor market. At first, this labor market was just an office of a contractor on a construction site. Later, people often gathered outside this office, hoping to exchange 3 meals a day and 2 snacks for hard labor. The contractor and Huijing would always take care of these people and pick out suitable ones to do the work. So as time went on, gradually, many strong people would squat here every day. However, this time, Huijing went out to recruit workers. The engineering project that once received a lot of attention has now received no response. Huijing looked at the large group of laborers squatting in front of him, waiting for work, and raised their wages to 200,000 a day.
Still no one responded.
The survivors of City D brought them the current situation of City D. The whole city is full of zombies that can't be killed. Who dares to go out? Hu Jing looked at these people and clenched his fists in anger. He sneered, "Okay, you guys are not going, right? If you don't go, I'll go alone." He turned around and went to the warehouse to get the barbed wire. But he ran into the contractor, who was coming out of the office. The contractor held a wrinkled pack of cigarettes in his hand, with a mouth full of cracked gold teeth. "I thought about it. Since Miss Hua asked us to go over there to repair the power grid, there must not be any big danger. Even if there is danger, Miss Hua will definitely be able to handle it. We can't let go of this opportunity to gain favor with Miss Hua." And more. He also put on a bulging snakeskin bag. It's like fleeing from famine. Mr. Bao and Hu Jing arrived in City D fully armed. They sat in the car, looking at the zombies wandering around in 2s and 3s outside the teleportation point. What to do? Mr. Bao adjusted the welded helmet on his head and looked at Hu Jing, who was also wearing a welded helmet, with helplessness. They brought a large truck with rolls of barbed wire in the bed. Hu Jing gritted his teeth. Because his face was covered by the helmet, his voice was vague, but the meaning of his gritted teeth could still be heard. "Charge." After saying that, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed towards the zombies that were coming in groups of 2 or 3. This was a good idea. At least Hu Jing and the contractor both arrived at the temporary safety zone safely. Many zombies were crushed along the way. After a day, many survivors had gathered outside the temporary safe zone. Most of them were rescued by the garrison. There are also some who escaped from the zombie crisis in D City on their own. This type of person is a lucky person with extremely good luck. Once he jumps out of the safe zone, he bursts into tears. Ai Shuiwen also survived, covered in blood. He and a few men sat in the snow, looking confused. With the intervention of the garrison, more and more zombies died, and more survivors appeared. The situation was gradually brought under control. People kept trying to enter the safe zone and go back to Xiangqing, but they were beaten back by Huami, Shirtsaixia, Dafu, and Xiaofu. I watched the contractor and Hu Jing drag the electric fence down from the truck and prepare to put up the barbed wire around the circle. Some people said sarcastically, "The garrison didn't say anything. Why can't a pregnant woman allow us to go back to Xiangqing? Are you trying to steal our supplies? Is this taking advantage of someone's misfortune or taking advantage of someone's misfortune? What does she want to do by putting us in danger?" Amidst the complaints, Huami looked ahead and saw a group of survivors lying or sitting in front of her. Someone approached Ai Shuiwen in the moonlight. "Captain, don't you want to say something?" Ai Shuiwen stood up shakily and negotiated with Huami on behalf of all the survivors. "It's been so long. You can't keep our supplies forever and not let us go back to Xiangqing. We will really die here." Huami looked at Ai Shuiwen, who had an angry face, and asked, "Where is your wife Guisei?" The man opposite was stunned. He had escaped death and still hadn't thought of Guisei. Immediately, Ai Shuiwen frowned and said to Huami, "We are talking about something else now. You have been guarding us for so long. We want to take back our own supplies now. Is that possible?" He knew Huami was powerful. Now they were tired, cold, and had no money, so no one was willing to confront Huami head-on. What's strange is that with such a big belly, how did this pregnant woman hold on and fight against them for a whole day? Huami continued to ask, "Your wife might still be alive. Why don't you save her?" Ai Shuiwen was so angry that he roared in a low voice, "I'm talking to you now about our material problems. Please don't talk about other things." Is this considered avoiding the issue? Huami sneered, "You formed a group, you blew up the zombies, your wife is in dire straits, you don't even know if she is dead or alive, and now you are still thinking about leaving City D as soon as possible. Isn't it the right thing to do after you've made adjustments to immediately organize your people and kill as many zombies as you can?" Under the moonlight, Ai Shuiwen stared at Huami with an unpleasant look on his face. "Shut up. I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Are you a woman? You have no idea what we have been through. What right do you have to stand here and tell us what we should do?" She had never experienced anything at all, just standing here and making sarcastic remarks. Huami turned around and ignored Ai Shuiwen. After a while, Zhou Cheng came back with the garrison team and asked Huami and Shirtsaixia to rest. "The garrison here has taken over. You guys should have a good rest. Commander Gong is still killing zombies in City D. The situation should be stable soon. Huami nodded and glanced at Anai Shuiwen. The garrison stabilized the situation, meaning that almost all the survivors who needed to be rescued had been rescued. So Gursei hasn't contacted yet, and the situation is very bad. Anai Shuiwen did not react at all. He just felt overwhelmed when he saw the garrison taking over the temporary safety zone. This means that they have to wait outside, and they cannot get their supplies back before 48 hours are up. He is in a lot of trouble now because this time it is his first time to form a group, and he has created a hornet's nest. It is impossible to calculate the death losses. Only the survivors who can stay outside the safe zone are alive. The number is less than 1/3 of the original.
This shows how many people died this time.
Who are still alive simply don't have the time to pursue the matter. Once they get their supplies back, they will definitely pursue the matter. The first to be affected was Anai Shuiwen. After all, he was the one who formed the group. Anai Shuiwen urgently wanted to get his supplies back so that he could leave City D as soon as possible. He and Guisei's car was filled with the zombie crystal cores they had hunted out during this period of time. These crystal cores back if he could. For a man who has suffered such a great, Anai Shuiwen really has no energy to care about what is happening to Guisei. But the idea of garrisoning is the same as Huami's. The isolation and observation areas near each teleportation point are already under great pressure. This group of survivors who are deeply trapped in the zombie crisis in City D cannot be let go, otherwise they will add to the pressure on the medical staff in the observation area. The fully armed Huijing and the contractor were like two hard-working little bees. They started pulling the barbed wire as soon as they arrived. Busy all night. By the next morning, someone outside the safe zone began to convulse. The crowd was in an uproar. Some pointed at the guards at the entrance to the safety zone and shouted angrily, "What are you doing? Do you know that someone is having a convulsion here? Why won't you let us in?" Anai Shuiwen hid in the crowd, looking gloomy, fanning the flames. That's right. Could it be that these garrisons want to swallow up our supplies? Why were they fine when they blew up the zombies? But after we blew up the zombies, we suffered such heavy losses? Did the garrison want to kill us on purpose? There are quite a lot of people who believe in this conspiracy theory. Someone asked, why does the garrison do this? There is no need for Anai Shuiwen to deliberately guide them. Some people think a lot and think divergently. There are too many survivors and supplies are scarce. We can reduce the burden a little. Xiangqing Base certainly doesn't want to support so many people. If some people die, it will alleviate the difficulties of material shortage. They were killed by zombies, so no one can blame the garrison. Recommend YTT Taotao's Ancient Farming article. My live broadcast room knows the past and present summary. A grandmother takes her granddaughter through ancient times, and the primary problem is how the old and the young can survive. Fortunately, I have a modern live broadcast room. At the beginning, the grandparents and grandchildren live broadcast that they were not well fed and clothed, and their sweat was dripping all over the ground. They had to tighten their belts and curse and fight in the streets just to have an extra bite of food. Later, they became so powerful that they even broadcast live broadcasts of ancient floods, wars, and banditry, as well as the construction of high walls and storage of grain to build their own beautiful home with their own hands. They put it into practice with practical actions and endured hardships beyond measure. Give us the teleportation tickets. We need to leave City D. A survivor immediately shouted, pointing at the brightening sky. We have been here for a long time. If you don't give me a teleport ticket, then come out and save people. Someone is having a convulsion here. It wasn't just one person who was twitching. In fact, there were survivors earlier who were leaning against a snow pile and showed slight signs of twitching. It was just too late, and few people paid attention to him. Tang Yu stood expressionlessly at the entrance of the safe zone. Most of the safe zone was covered with barbed wire. Once this circle of barbed wire is put up, electricity will be supplied. The survivors became even more anxious and carried the twitching person on the ground to the entrance of the safe zone. Are you going to save people or not? You are taking human life lightly. We are going to film your evil deeds while stationed in City D and post them online. Thanks to Huami's Universal Signal Connector. Even though the environment has become so bad, the internet still exists. In the early stages of her pregnancy, Hua Mi was sleepy all day long. In the late stages of her pregnancy, now that it is almost 7 months, she can't even sleep. The twins caused her to start urinating frequently earlier in her pregnancy. Throughout the night, she woke up frequently to go to the bathroom, and every time she managed to fall asleep, she was woken up by the noisy survivors outside. She couldn't hold back her emotions and rushed out of the RV out of control. The long knife in his hand left a deep mark on the snow. When Hua Mi rushed out of the safe zone with a knife, Zhou Cheng was leading the team back, preparing to take over Tang Yu's shift. It was at this time that Anai Shuewen shouted, "We can't go in. Why can this pregnant woman go in? Why does she get special treatment?" With just one sentence, it was like a frying pan exploding, and the eyes of all the survivors outside were on Hua Mi. Hua Mi originally wanted to pick up the knife and chop to death those people on the ground who were twitching and about to turn into zombies. As a result, when she heard this, she stroked her belly with one hand, looked coldly, and saw Anai Shuewen across a group of embarrassed survivors. "I'm not as stupid as you guys. Blasting the ice on your own. I've never left the safe zone." Hua Mi put away her knife and stopped hacking at the zombies. She let the men on the snow twitch and sneered. "You say I'm special, then I am indeed special. In the entire temporary safety zone, I and my people were the only ones who didn't join in Anai Shuewen's fun." What she meant by this was to mock the survivors for their own stupidity. There is no cure for stupidity. There was a brief silence on the side of the embarrassed survivors. There are many smart people among them, and it is precisely because of their smart brains that they were able to find alternative ways and survive the frequent natural disasters in the previous few months. Of course, I remember that it was Anai Shuewen who started it, and they responded by blasting the ice with great fanfare. What should we do now? We should find a solution. So many of our people died. Why didn't the garrison come to rescue us in time? Someone growled with his neck stretched out. They were clearly stationed inside City D, and they were clearly able to control the zombies in City D very well in the early stages. Why can't we control it this time? We did make a mistake, but we can't be doomed forever just because we made a mistake once, right? Don't we even have a chance to correct it? Someone shouted, his voice choked with sobs. Because their ideas were naive, they felt that the crystal cores they earned before were too few, and they thought that zombies could be killed. So, they decided to blast the ice without permission. Is this really a heinous crime? Isn't killing zombies a way to solve the current difficulties and better protect other survivors? Zombies want to eat people. They have no self-thinking and cannot be domesticated. They are natural enemies of humans. Therefore, when humans kill zombies, the distinction between black and white is clear, and they are irreconcilable. In that case, did the survivors have to pay so many lives for just blasting the ice? What did they do wrong to deserve such a tragic price? Zhou Cheng and Tang Yu, who were changing shifts, pursed their lips and remained silent, listening to the survivors' accusations without saying a word. However, Hua Mi, who was out of control, yelled at the survivors. "Who can give you another chance? Do you think you are characters created by the author, and that if the author is happy, he can give you a new life? This is what you have to accept. Once the situation gets out of control, there will be no recovery. You will have to pay the price with your life in a tragic way. The zombies you are facing are the end of the world, not a game, not a novel, and not something you can take for granted. It's no use regretting now. The dead are dead. Those who are still alive are lucky, but if they continue to commit suicide like this, they will become unfortunate." There was widespread silence among the survivors. The early sun shines through the thick clouds and falls on the white snow. It seemed as if after a long time, the living people finally saw the long-lost sunshine. The morning light shines on people's faces. Some people temporarily put aside their hatred and shout in surprise, "The sun is out." Some people still refuse to give in, saying, "No matter what, human lives are at stake now. Our medicines and supplies are all in the temporary safety zone. Can you please give me a way out?" They pointed at several men twitching on the ground, their faces filled with anxiety. "If the garrison doesn't rescue us, we'll rescue them ourselves. Let us into the safe zone quickly." It was at this moment that the survivor, oh no, zombie, who was twitching on the ground, jumped up, roared, and pounced towards Zhou Cheng, who was closest to him. The zombie that suddenly attacked Zhou Cheng was shot in the head by Tang Yu, which directly cracked its head. During the training in City D, the garrison also used guns, not just cold weapons. They need to practice with guns how to accurately shoot zombies in the head instead of wasting bullets. Sure enough, the zombie that attacked Zhou Cheng was shot in the head and never got up again. The remaining few twitching men also quickly turned into zombies in a short period of time. They crawled towards the survivors. As soon as he came up, he started roaring. Some of the survivors made a noise and retreated collectively. Some people also reacted, pulled out knives, and shouted, "They've turned into zombies. They've turned into zombies. There's no way they can be saved." At the beginning, the survivors who were shouting that human lives were at stake had already run to the back of the crowd. When someone steps back, someone else steps forward. A survivor is about to step forward and chop these zombies. However, he was pushed to the ground by another tall and strong man. All I heard was the tall and strong man roaring loudly, "This is my brother. You are not allowed to hurt him." Everyone stared at the tall and strong man in astonishment. Yes, he was still a human just now, but he twitched a few times. How could he turn into a zombie? If it is under control, will there be any hope? With such doubts in mind, no survivors stepped forward to kill the zombies for a while. Huami looked at him, without moving. She shook her head. Some experiences can only be taught with one's life. There is no other way. As soon as he finished speaking, behind the tall and strong man, his younger brother stood up uncoordinatedly, hugged his brother, and bit his neck. "I signed up for a writing class yesterday. After my little one fell asleep, I got up to do my homework. I went to bed at about 12 o'clock. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, sent my child to the charging station to charge my car. So, at this time, I was still typing at the charging station." The crowd made even louder noises. For many survivors, this was their first time experiencing such a situation. It is true that they also have relatives who died in the frequent natural disasters, but it was like this. A few hours ago, their relatives were still alive. As a result, he jumped up and hugged himself and took a bite. It seems to be too tragic. Especially the tall and strong man who was bitten. No reaction at all. The one who bit him was his own brother.
He was bitten.
He was bitten by his brother. The crowd whispered, "If the younger brother bites the older brother, will the older brother also become a zombie?" Before the tall and strong man who was bitten could come to his senses, the survivors stopped hesitating. They stepped forward and chopped several zombies on the open space into several pieces with their swords. After sharing a common hatred for the enemy, the survivors in the open space quickly quieted down. One by one, they all looked at the tall and strong man in the open space. Everyone seemed to have the same understanding that this tall and strong man had just been bitten by his own brother. The tall and strong man had blood on his neck, and he looked at his brother's body at his feet with a pale face. He raised his hand and touched his neck again. It seems that he still can't accept what happened. At this time, an Ai Shuiwen walked out from the crowd. "Wu Guilong, if you are bitten by a zombie, you will also become a zombie." The man called Wu Guilong had an ugly expression on his dark face. He stared at an Ai Shuiwen intently, gritting his teeth. "What do you mean?" An Ai Shuiwen didn't say anything, just pursed his lips and looked at Wu Guilong. But no one understood. An Ai Shuiwen's meaning was very simple. In order to prevent a situation like that from happening again, Wu Guilong must die. They saw it with their own eyes. It was a fact happening around them. The survivors were bitten by zombies. Then they will become zombies. A person who was alive a few hours ago will become a zombie a few hours later. So Wu Guilong was bitten, and he wouldn't live long. A few days ago, the team was still boasting about the need to unite and seize the power to kill monsters from the garrison and earn more crystal cores.
Now it has fallen to this.
Wu Guilong just stood there under everyone's gaze, being pointed at and talked about by everyone. His brother had just died, and his brother was the one who most supported an Ai Shuiwen's ambitions. When everyone here didn't know an Ai Shuiwen yet, Wu Guilong and his brothers had already gone through various natural disasters hand in hand with Ni Shuiwen and his wife. It was Ni Shuiwen who said that the future doomsday environment is still unknown, and they should keep up with the changes in current affairs. So the two brothers followed Ni Shuiwen to City D to fight zombies. It was Ni Shuiwen who said that if one wants to survive in the apocalypse, one must obtain more crystal cores. It was also Ni Shuiwen who said that he wanted to form a group, break away from the shackles of garrison, and lead this group to become the strongest, largest, and most powerful team in the apocalypse in the future. As a result, it was Ni Shuiwen who first came out and said that Wu Guilong was about to turn into a zombie, and he had been bitten by a zombie. The situation is stronger than people. Facing the pointing and stabbing of the survivors, Wu Guilong felt very frustrated. He watched Ni Shuiwen come forward, raise the knife in his hand, and was about to chop him. Wu Guilong took 2 steps back, dodging Ni Shuiwen's knife. His face suddenly changed. Ni Shuiwen, what are you doing? I haven't turned into a zombie yet. He felt very uncomfortable, but even so, Wu Guilong still had a clear understanding that he was a human being. He hasn't turned into a zombie yet? What are we waiting for? Are we going to wait for him to actually turn into a zombie and come over to bite us? Seeing that no one moved, Ni Shuiwen shouted loudly. In terms of strength, from the time he just met Wu Guilong, Ni Shuiwen, who was just a small leader of the company before the end of the world, was not as strong as the boxer Wu Guilong. It is also because of Wu Guilong's great strength that Ni Shuiwen and his wife and Wu Guilong's younger brother have more hope of survival in the face of frequent natural disasters. So, at this time, if Ni Shuiwen killed Wu Guilong alone, he might not have the ability to kill the boxer Wu Guilong. Ni Shuiwen instigated the rest of the survivors to kill Wu Guilong together. But many people know that Wu Guilong is not easy to mess with. He is so strong that he hardly needs any weapons to kill zombies. He can smash the zombie's head into pieces with just one punch. Even now, this kind of person is not easy to deal with. Seeing that no one dared to step forward, Ni Shuiwen turned his attention to the garrison. He took a few steps forward, pointed at Wu Guilong, who looked grim, and said to Zhou Cheng, who had already finished his shift, "You guys are just on guard and you don't care? There's a person bitten by a zombie here. You saw it, right? He was bitten by a zombie." Zhou Cheng took out the latest issue of the Garrison Internal Reference from his pocket and flipped through it. I came across a submission written by an anonymous author named Zijinhua on the 3 directions of change after being bitten by a zombie. This article was not written by the Garrison Elite, but was submitted by an anonymous author directly to Commander-in-Chief Gong, who then forwarded it to the Garrison Internal Reference editorial department. Zijinhua said that after being bitten by a zombie, there is a 95% chance that you will become a zombie, but there is also a 4% chance that nothing will happen to you. Zhou Cheng was shaking the Garrison Internal Reference in his hand as he read the article about the game of poker aloud. Huami, dragging a long sword and with a big pregnant belly, listened expressionlessly. Zijinhua also said that after an ordinary person is bitten by a zombie, there is a 1% chance that he will evolve into a mutant. Zhou Cheng continued reading. Huami added, "The prerequisite is that you are not killed by other fearful survivors before you evolve into a mutant." Zhou Cheng nodded immediately. "Yes, that's right. That's what the Golden Flower said." Sister Hua has studied the internal reference very deeply. Learn from Sister Hua. The rest of the garrison shouted in unison. Wu Guilong, who was standing behind Ni Shuiwen, looked pale and suddenly raised his face and looked at Huami and Zhou Cheng with sadness. This boxer, who was very famous before the end of the world, seemed to have experienced the tragedy of the death of his last relative in a very short period of time. He hasn't adjusted his mood yet. As a result, he would face accusations from his companions, the danger of turning into a zombie, and the despair of dying at the hands of his companions while he still had consciousness. In this desperate situation, it was the garrison that they disliked the most before who came out and spoke a fair word. There is still a total of 5% chance that he will not become a zombie. Ha ha ha, Wu Guilong smiled, tears streaming down his face, as he looked at his companions who were pointing fingers at him and wishing to kill him. Being alive is not a very happy thing. This is a very heavy mood. Wu Guilong became famous at a young age and won the boxing championship for several years. Most of the people around him were kind. His family, his friends, his opponents, and the countless fans who love him. All are friendly. Stop talking nonsense. Are you going to kill them or not? And Ai Shuiwen came out on behalf of the team, acting like a big brother. Zhou Cheng, who was guarding the entrance to the safe zone, stood straight. He may not become a zombie. There is a 5% chance that he can survive. Everyone is accusing the garrison of disregarding human life, but who is actually disregarding human life? While stationed here, at this moment, the 5% chance of survival cannot be given up. But for other survivors, they could only hear that there was a 95% chance that Wu Guilong would become a zombie. This probability means there is no hope. The team members expressed their dissatisfaction. And Ai Shuiwen looked at Zhou Cheng coldly. We can't take this risk. This man must be killed. You garrisons cannot just stand by and watch a dangerous person among us. Someone said loudly, that's right, he was bitten by his brother because he was careless. Who knows when he will turn into a zombie and bite us? After all, they only now truly realized how terrifying zombies are. The garrison would not let them leave, nor would they be allowed to kill Wu Guilong. What is going on? Zhou Cheng pursed his lips and looked at Ai Shuiwen and the others seriously. We won't kill him, and you can't kill him under our noses. This is a matter of principle. Some people just refused to believe this and came forward and stabbed Wu Guilong with a knife. You guys stay put and don't do anything. We'll do it ourselves. The next moment, the man holding a knife in front of the garrison was kicked away by the garrison. Wu Guilong watched the whole process, distraught, and did not defend himself or fight back. This appearance is somewhat similar to that of a zombie with lifeless eyes. He has given up on himself from the bottom of his heart. When the others saw his horrible appearance, they became more certain and rushed to the garrison. You garrisons are too hateful. You don't kill the zombies, you don't let us go back to Xiangqing, and you even want to use zombies to harm us. This is unbearable. Let's all go for it. We're all going to die anyway, so we might as well give it a try. Their patience finally reached its boiling point at this moment. Especially Ai Shuiwen. He was so eager to leave. He kept instigating the survivors, and everyone wanted to break through the garrison's defenses, kill Wu Guilong, and take the opportunity to enter the safe zone. Zhou Cheng gave an order, kill those who don't follow the rules and order. Gong Yi once said that at critical moments, troublemakers can be killed. These survivors were left in a temporary safe zone to divert traffic and relieve pressure at various teleportation points. The reason why Wu Guilong was not killed was that he had not yet turned into a zombie, and even physically, there was no sign of his transformation into a zombie. This is the bottom line of the garrison principle. These survivors tried to use violence to challenge the rules and order established by the garrison. Killable. The combat effectiveness of ordinary survivors is simply not on the same level as that of the serious garrisons. Not to mention, among them there is Hua Mi, whose fighting power is unfathomable. Hua Mi was pregnant and was just standing by and watching. The survivors were seen attacking the garrison and heading towards Wu Guilong. Someone kicked Wu Guilong and knocked him to the ground. Wu Guilong, who was bitten by a zombie, showed a painful expression on his face. He looked at the survivor who had kicked him. You will turn into a zombie and kill us. Go to Hades. The other party pua Wu Guilong. Wu Guilong also felt that he had no hope, so he closed his eyes and accepted his death. A survival rate of 5% is too low, really too low. A tear rolled down the corner of his eye. At this moment, Hua Mi pulled out a long sword and joined the battle. It's not because Wu Guilong looks stupid and pitiful. The key point is that Hua Mi felt that these survivors were going too far. If you don't do what they say, they'll take action, right? Is who afraid of who? Murder. Murder. The pregnant woman murdered. Among the confused survivors who were besieging the garrison, someone suddenly shouted in panic. This sound woke up the distraught Wu Guilong. He sat on the snow and opened his eyes to see a woman with a big belly holding a 2-meter-long knife in her hand, protecting him, just like he was protecting his younger brother not long ago. And around him and Hua Mi, there was a corpse lying. It was a person whose head was chopped off by Hua Mi. Over there, Zhou Cheng and others had subdued a small number of survivors who were trying to attack the garrison line. He looked back in the direction of Hua Mi and Wu Guilong and saw that Hua Mi was not in any danger. Zhou Cheng felt relieved and continued to deal with the survivors who were causing trouble. While fighting, Zhou Cheng moved closer to Hua Mi and Wu Guilong. Some survivors pointed at Hua Mi and yelled at her. "Are you sick? What does this man have to do with you? We killed him because he was about to turn into a zombie. Are you crazy if you kill us? We have no grudge against you." Hua Mi sneered, holding the handle of the long sword in his hand, and the blade cut through the air. "I only kill troublemakers. Whoever jumps in front of me, I will kill him." After a moment, Hua Mi turned around, revealing a bit of her fair face, and looked at Wu Guilong behind her. "I can't see this man turn into a corpse, so no one can touch him. She can kill the zombies in advance." Before the bitten person shows obvious signs of zombie transformation, Hua Mi will not stop anyone from killing Wu Guilong. But now, she was helping the garrison to kill troublemakers. One thing is one thing. Wu Guilong, sitting on the snow, looked up blankly at Hua Mi's back. It was difficult for him to describe his inner feelings at this moment. And Shuewen pointed at Hua Mi and said angrily, "Who do you think you are protecting? You don't want us to kill him, do you? Okay, we'll wait for the moment when he bites you." That being said, the survivors around did not dare to move forward. They besieged the garrison because the garrison would not easily kill them. But when they besiege Hua Mi, this woman will really kill people, and she won't say hello before doing so. No one dared to step forward, and everyone looked at Hua Mi, who was protecting the zombies, with hatred. Wu Guilong stood up at this time. Under everyone's gaze, he said clearly, "Tie me up. It's not 48 hours. Tie me up for 48 hours. If I don't turn into a zombie after 48 hours, it means I'm fine." This is indeed a solution. It is also the most reassuring method nowadays. Everyone looked at each other and stopped talking. And Shuewen wanted to show off his leadership and was about to speak. "Zhou Cheng has already brought the garrison here. While they were at that end, they were still subduing the survivors." After moving closer to Hua Mi, the survivors had completely calmed down. "You tied him up with chains? Listen, what kind of tone is this?" A pregnant woman actually used a tone of command to order the garrison to do something. Why is Hua Mi so arrogant? Is it because she can fight? And Shuewen felt sour in his heart, and he sneered. It would be strange if the garrison would listen to Hua Mi. These rigid-minded garrisons only obey orders from their superiors. The survivors had already found out that the highest-ranking garrison officer in City D was the one named Zhou Cheng. I heard that he used to be the garrison commander in City C, but later he joined Gong E and handed over his power. There were also survivors who looked at Hua Mi with a mocking look on their faces. They won't help to tie up Wu Guilong, so Hua Mi will have to scream at the top of her lungs to find the chains. Human nature, in the details, always reflects a certain ugliness. Just when everyone was standing by and watching the fun without taking any action, a garrison found a string of iron chains from the safe zone. Amid the astonished looks of the survivors around him, one of the garrisons patted Wu Guilong on the shoulder and said, "Good luck to you." This one sentence almost made Wu Guilong burst into tears. It was clearly just a perfunctory blessing, like the welcome you often heard when you visited a store before the end of the world. Or when ordinary friends greet each other, they say, "What a nice weather today." But it is the most pertinent blessing without any malice in Wu Guilong's current world. Yes, people's hearts are hateful in the last days, and it is precisely because of this that the only bit of kindness appears more dazzling and more touching. Hu Jing and the contractor were wearing iron armor and resting against a car. There are only 2 of them working here. In order to catch up with the progress, they each have 10 bottles of energy water drops. When they feel tired, they take a sip. Great effort can make miracles happen. With the help of energy drops, the 2 of them spent dozens of hours and managed to build the barbed wire fence in the D-City security zone by themselves. Now, each of them is holding a bottle of energy water drops and toasting to celebrate the completion of the project. Huami also received the news that the power grid in the D-City safety zone had been completed and successfully obtained 19 square meters of black land. When a lucky draw X1 remaining draws X37, she has not yet settled the 19 square meters of black soil. Because considering that the temperature is rising now, in addition to City D, there are many cities with a large number of zombies. There will be many places to place teleportation points in the future. Moreover, the survivors in the Xiangqing base are not short of supplies. At least compared to Huami's previous life, the survivors in this apocalypse will not starve to death. Huami does not have to rush to plant the newly acquired 19 square meters of black soil. She followed Wu Guilong and the rest of the garrison back to the safe zone. Hu Jing and the contractor, who were working on the energy drop, immediately stood up in high spirits. The contractor, wearing iron armor, stuffed the half-drunk energy drop in his hand into Hu Jing's arms. He ran towards Huami, holding out a remote control with both hands, and said in a fawning smile, "Miss Hua, this is the remote control I prepared specially for you." Huami glanced at it and asked, "What's it for?" Seeing the contractor offering a treasure, he pressed the remote control in his hand. Wire outside the safe zone made a sizzling sound, and the electric current instantly spread throughout the barbed wire. The contractor bent down, holding the remote control in both hands, and said loudly in a voice that the survivors outside could hear, "From now on, this safe zone is under the control of you, Miss Hua. If they don't obey, you can turn off the power to the safe zone. Tell those survivors to show off. They want to show off, right? See how the chief lackey makes plans for Sister Hua and slaps the faces of those survivors outside. It's no wonder." Mr. Bao showed a smug smile on his face. He was sure that this flattery would hit Miss Hua's ace. Hu Jing, who was not far away, stared at his uncle's flattering face in amazement. He couldn't help but secretly gave Mr. Bao a thumbs up. Huami couldn't help but want to touch Mr. Bao's dog head. She held back and politely took the remote control handed to her by Mr.
Bao.
"Thank you, you are so thoughtful." The survivors outside the barbed wire were whispering to each other. What is the identity of this pregnant woman? The garrison obeys her. She also built an electric fence in the safe zone of City D. She can shut down the power grid at any time. If we offend her in the future, she can shut down the power grid, and the zombies can rush into the safe zone, right? This woman must be of high status. Amid the low conversation, Anai Shuiwen's eyes were deep, staring at Huami's back, and no one knew what he was thinking. The 48 hours have not yet passed, and the number of zombies in City D has been decreasing under Gong Yi's layout and control. The tense and dangerous atmosphere was relaxing a little bit. With the completion of the power grid, the safety factor of the D-City safety zone has been greatly improved. The survivors suffered heavy losses this time, and many of them had other plans in mind. In fact, if you fly back to Xiangqing, you still have to be quarantined for another 48 hours starting from the moment you land. It would be better to enter the temporary safe zone, take a short rest, and continue killing zombies in City D. After suffering such a heavy loss in this wave, the remaining survivors will never dare to up the ice on their own again. From now on, they will follow behind the garrison and let the garrison rush in front. They will pick up the leaks and earn more than 10 or 20 crystal cores a day. Actually, it's not bad. Everyone has their own calculations. Outside the safe zone, the survivors who are in quarantine and observation are gradually calming down. The bodies on the snow were shoveled away by the slowly approaching garbage truck. A survivor glanced casually at the packed garbage truck compartment and muttered, "I don't know who is sitting here." That's right, like a heartless robot. All he does is shovel corpses. Weird garbage trucks and weird robot vacuum cleaners all over the city. No one really explores who is sitting in the garbage truck. Survival and struggle are at the core of all survivors. Gradually, night fell. As the dangerous situation in City D was lifted, more and more survivors were rescued from the zombie apocalypse. The garrison redemarcated an isolation and observation area and accommodated the newly returned survivors in batches. This crisis, which was created by the survivors' own cleverness, was finally resolved by the garrison after a day's work. Anai Shuiwen took a look at the newly returned survivors, but did not find Guisei among them. The first group of survivors were rescued after 48 hours. Many people got the opportunity to enter the safe zone, pick up their luggage, and fly away. But most people did not choose to leave. Not long after, Chi Chuan came with a material transportation team. Following Huami's instructions, they moved all the vending machines in the entire City D into the City D's safe zone. Huami looked at the recycled vending machine and felt a pang of heartache. Because the survivors were surrounded by zombies and lacked supplies, it was not convenient for them to have money to scan the code to buy supplies. Or maybe they felt that D City was already in such a state. What rules and order were there? Even if they had money, they didn't want to spend it on supplies. They resorted to violence and destroyed the vending machines. In City D, free shopping was implemented. After the zombie crisis was resolved, all 10 vending machines that were recovered were destroyed. The supplies inside had long since disappeared. No one knows who did it. In the future, please put the vending machines in safe areas instead of outside. Huami held her waist and instructed Chi Chuan. She pointed to an empty space and said, "A teleportation point just appeared there. From now on, your people will fly over with supplies and distribute them." After explaining everything to Chi Chuan, Huami looked at the sky. It had already gotten dark, and bright stars were twinkling on the black sky. She turned and walked towards her RV. I happened to pass by a truck and heard the sound of someone kicking on the door. Wu Guilong had just been bitten and he still needed observation, so the garrison locked him in a truck. There is no special isolation area here, so a truck is temporarily used to replace the isolation and observation area. Due to limited conditions, Da Fu was the person responsible for observing Wu Guilong. Huami raised her hand, patted Da Fu's shoulder, and gave the child a reassured look. She took 2 steps forward and opened the door of the truck with a loud bang. "Sister Hua, why are you here?" He heard the garrison call this pregnant woman that. Without waiting for Huami to answer, Wu Guilong was afraid that she would misunderstand that he had turned into a zombie, so he hurriedly explained, "I just want to kick the door open and look at the stars." As if he had thought of something, Wu Guilong's eyes turned red. "There are stars tonight." Huami made way, giving up a large area of scenery near the door. She raised her head expressionlessly at the sky. Yes, there were a large number of stars, something she hadn't seen in a long time. Da Fu couldn't help but look up at the sky. He was just busy trying to be alert to whether Wu Guilong had turned into a zombie. "I never thought about it. I just wanted to kick the door open and look at the stars." Then, no one knew what Wu Guilong remembered. He lay in the truck and couldn't help sobbing. Huami looked down, frowned, and asked, "Why are you crying?" Wu Guilong tilted his head to avoid Huami's gaze. He felt a little embarrassed. A boxing champion actually cried in front of a woman and a child. "I just thought that if I become a zombie in the future, I don't know if I can still see the stars." Wu Guilong was a rare sentimental person, and in these short 20 hours, he experienced the most fearful, uneasy, sad, and darkest moment of his life. At this time, he didn't know who to talk to about his inner depression and negative emotions. Huami and Da Fu happened to be there. Wu Guilong thought that he was going to become a zombie anyway, so he overcame his embarrassment and asked, "Do you think I will be able to see the stars again?"
No.
Huami answered very rationally, "Once you show symptoms of corpse transformation, you will be killed. You don't have to worry about this problem. Even if you successfully escape the fate of being beheaded, as a zombie, you will not be able to appreciate the stars because zombies don't have that IQ." These words were like a critical hit of 10,000 points, which stunned Wu Guilong. His face was pale, and he forced out an expression uglier than crying towards Huami. "Well, there's no need to be so blunt." Huami shrugged, played with the remote control of the safe zone's power grid, and turned around to return to the RV. Behind him, Wu Guilong's hesitant voice sounded again. "Sister Hua, can you lend me some money?" He asked Huami to borrow money. Huami turned around curiously and looked at Wu Guilong with raised eyebrows. This was the first time she met someone who asked her to borrow money. People in the apocalypse are generally divided into 2 types when facing her, one who depends on her for a living, and the other who looks down on her. Even though the living environment in the last days is harsh, one still insists on getting pregnant and giving birth. The former knew that she had money and supplies, and they relied on her for food. They also had sufficient funds and did not need to borrow money from her. The latter felt that she might be poorer than them, and they were all afraid of being dependent on her and did not think that she was rich. I won't even bother asking her to borrow money. There was only one Wu Guilong, looking pitiful, with tears streaming down his cheeks. I'm really hungry. Can you lend me some money? Just lend me 1,000 yuan to buy some bread. Although the prices of goods sold at small vendors change every day, the price increase is extremely outrageous. But the supplies in the vending machines are relatively cheap. 1,000 yuan can buy a lot of bread. Wu Guilong didn't know when he would turn into a zombie, so it was right that he was very worried about this issue. But he had not eaten for days, and had not eaten until he was rescued by the garrison. Now I'm freaking hungry. I want to fill myself up before I turn into a corpse. She looked even more miserable and pitiful. Huami put the remote control into the number 3 warehouse on level 35 with a flick of her finger. She put her hands behind her back and said with her belly sticking out, "You said you were going to turn into a zombie. If I lend you money now, wouldn't that mean I'll lose everything? You've turned into a zombie. What are you going to use to pay me back?" Wu Guilong was speechless for a moment. He looked at Huami with tears streaming down his face. You have a point. So, he was destined to be a starving ghost. Ren Huami didn't know him anything. She had already helped him a lot. She had always been protecting him in front of those ferocious survivors. Now, it is understandable that Huami does not lend him money to buy bread. After all, he really turned into a zombie and couldn't pay back Huami's money. Wu Guilong was filled with self-pity and felt that his life was simply a huge tragedy. Let's do this,
Huami said.
Sign me a document. If you don't turn into a zombie, you will work for me for free for 100 years. Wu Guilong thinks that Huami, this woman, may have adapted to what others often say. Pregnancy makes people stupid for 3 years. Otherwise, with this calculation, she would definitely suffer a loss. A loaf of bread in the safe zone now starts at 100 yuan. The price is not expensive. The prices have depreciated greatly. Now, around the Xiangqing base, the money can still be used as money. But in other places, money is just a piece of waste paper. Huami gave Wu Guilong 5 loaves of bread at one time and asked of Fu to feed them to Wu Guilong. She seemed to have just said it casually and didn't care whether Wu Guilong really wrote any agreement for her and just went back to her RV. He waited until Wu Guilong wolfed down the bread that Dafu fed him before he signaled to Dafu. Asked Dafu to bring him paper and pen. The young boy leaned against the car door, shaking the paper and pen in his hand, and said to Wu Guilong, "Uncle, you said you were about to turn into a zombie. What's the point of writing this? My sister is a kind person. She actually wants to do good things, but she has to find such a vicious excuse. No matter what, we should still keep our word. Maybe even if I become a zombie, I still have some memories in my head. Do I still remember that I have to work for Sister Hua for 100 years? He struggled to get out from under the iron chain, swinging his hands. Dafu, I told you to write it, you write it for me, and then I'll draw a bloody fingerprint. This is a very important thing. Wu Guilong felt that he had reached his limit, and not only promised his entire life to Huami. He even promised Huami his next life. Anyway, I just have to make up 100 years, and I probably only have about 10 hours left to live in this life. As for the remaining 100 years, I can only pay it back in the next life. He was very determined, and when he made the vow, he really meant that he would work like a captive for Huami in his next life. After drawing the bloody handprint, Wu Guilong lay contentedly in the truck, looking at the stars while waiting to die. He even stretched his neck deliberately so that when he turned into a zombie, it would be easier for Dafu to attack him. On this side, Huami really didn't take the matter of the 5 loaves of bread to heart. She returned to the RV, and as soon as she opened the door, she saw Gong Yi sitting inside the RV. He had taken a shower in the small toilet and was now wearing a garrison t-shirt and shorts of the same color. He walked out of the toilet while wiping his short hair. Seeing Huami coming back, Gong Yi hurriedly bent down and wiped the water off the ground with a towel. "Sit here, sit here. He walked forward attentively, helped Hwami to sit on the U-shaped sofa. When sitting down, he even put out his hand to protect Hwami's bulging belly. Hwami felt very crowded. Her belly was big now. When she sat on the sofa, the edge of the table was against her big belly. Her emotions were unstable in the late stages of pregnancy, and she couldn't help but get angry when she saw such a small thing. Hwami kicked the aluminum alloy table leg in front of her and said irritably, "Gong-yi, can you saw this thing off?" "Okay." Gong-yi immediately stood up, saw it right away. After a while, an invisible spiritual force sawed off the aluminum alloy table leg neatly. Gong-yi moved the table away and looked at Hwami lying on the sofa. She finally looked relaxed, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He sat next to her, carefully raised his hand and touched Hwami's belly. Although he was not always physically by Hwami's side, Gong-yi was always paying attention to Hwami. He is a psychic and does not need sleep. Yes, the brain of a psychic is too active. He often remains in an energetic state for 10 days or half a month. So Gong-yi knew about Hwami's recent mood changes. She was irritable, sentimental, and always forgetful. Gong-yi didn't dare to provoke her. So at this moment, seeing that Hwami was in low spirits, Gong-yi touched her belly and took out a book called How to Be a Good Husband-Wife's Pregnancy Period to read. Hwami didn't say anything, and he didn't dare to say a word, for fear that if he said one more word, he would anger his wife. Such a beautiful girl. Because of having a child for him, her mood became unstable, and she also suffered from edema during pregnancy, and her body became bloated and deformed. Shouldn't he give her more? After a while, Hwami took a nap, closed her eyes, and took out a cup of milk tea from the #1 warehouse on level 35. Halfway through drinking, Defu called her from outside. Hwami raised her hand and placed the milk tea on the table. "Where is the table?" She suddenly became uneasy and turned her head expressionlessly to look at Gong-yi. Gong-yi had relaxed his vigilance a little when he saw Hwami holding the milk tea in one hand in a releasing posture. He was as if facing a formidable enemy. He immediately reached out to take the milk tea from Hwami's hand and smiled at her. "Wife, what I'm saying is you go out and do your work first, and I promise to put the table back for you later." Without Hwami saying anything, Gong-yi immediately stood up and pretended to be busy tinkering with the table leg that had been sawed off. Hwami pursed her lips. Seeing that Gong-yi was busy, she didn't say anything. She just held her belly and walked out of the RV. Dafu was waiting for her outside. When he saw her come out, he handed the letter of commitment signed by Wu Guilong in blood to Hwami's sister Ami. "The man who asked me to hand him over to you has not turned into a zombie yet." Dafu looked somewhat reluctant. He felt that Wu Guilong was actually a good person, at least not like the other survivors who were full of cunning schemes. Hwami glanced at Dafu and said calmly, "Just because it hasn't changed now doesn't mean it won't change in the future." Dafu hesitated and asked, "Is there any hope for him? I mean, is that all? Is there absolutely no hope at all? Are we just going to watch these people turn into zombies without any way to do anything?"
He was a little sad.
The boy's parents and sister have been by his side since the end of the world. Because he had been working for Hwami, he had not suffered much from the previous natural disasters and man-made disasters. After arriving in City D, the little boy seemed to have grown up in an instant. He has a deeper thinking about many things. Perhaps there will be a solution to this despair? Sister Ami knows everything, and she must have a solution to this dilemma. Maybe it is very difficult to achieve this solution, or maybe it is completely impossible to achieve it on your own. But at least it will give people in despair a direction to work towards. Instead of being like it is now, despair seems to have taken root and grown in people's hearts.
Wami smiled.
Looking at such an innocent child, she couldn't help but raise her hand and touch Dafu's head. "I'll tell you a way to never put yourself in a desperate situation. You must continue to work hard to become stronger. When you become the strongest, your path will become wider and wider." Hwami and Dafu were talking outside the RV. Inside the RV, Gong-yi looked hopelessly at the aluminum alloy table legs in front of him and called Zhou Cheng. The call was connected. Gong-yi whispered, "Hello?" Zhou Cheng held the phone and asked curiously, "Hello, Mao? Brother E, what's wrong with you?" Are you a thief? In the RV, Gong Yi secretly poked his head out, looked at Huami's back outside the door, and continued to speak in a low voice. Give me the whole table, quickly, and don't disturb my wife. What happened to your wife? What do you want the table for? Zhou Cheng raised his voice, thought about it with his understanding, and suddenly realized it with a smile. Brother Yi, you and your wife were playing tricks. Gong Yi, who was in the RV, had a serious face. What nonsense are you talking about? I sawed off the table legs on my wife's car, and now she wants me to put them back. But the aluminum alloy legs can no longer be put back. Gong Yi asked Zhou Cheng to find him a table, just one with 4 legs. After explaining for a long time, Zhou Cheng finally understood. Oh, leave it to me. I'll be there soon. Zhou Cheng was willing to do anything to help Brother Yi solve his marriage crisis. He carried the foam box of crayfish from the night market, walked around Huami outside the RV, stood by the RV window, and knocked gently in Morse code. I came and brought the table. Gong Yi stretched his head to take a look and tapped the glass window in Morse code. Please pass the table in through the window. The 2 senior garrison commanders completed the transaction regarding the table with solemn expressions. The window of the RV was opened, and Gong Yi looked at the white foam box handed in by Zhou Cheng and compared it with the luxurious and high-end decoration of the RV. In fact, it's okay to have a cup of milk tea. He wiped the foam box and placed it next to the sofa. It looked stable. He knocked on the window and sent a Morse code message to Zhou Cheng. Hurry up, my wife is coming back. When he turned around to look again, Zhou Cheng had already run away without a trace. Huami, who was outside the RV, saw the foo off and was about to return to the RV. Nai Shuewen called her, Ami. Huami stood there without moving, squinting at Nai Shuewen, who was walking towards her. Nai Shuewen stood in front of Huami with a smile. There was a misunderstanding between us before. Now that the crisis is resolved, I thought I should come and explain it to you. From now on, we will help each other and remain friends. Huami looked at Nai Shuewen in confusion. Friends? Were we friends before? Nai Shuewen was stunned for a moment. A trace of gloom flashed across his face, and then disappeared. Of course, don't friends always get to know each other through fighting? As he spoke, his eyes habitually glanced at the luxury RV behind Huami. I happened to see Gong Yi busy inside. The garrison combat uniform on his body made Nai Shuewen understand instantly. There is a garrison in Huami's RV. Seeing that Huami can give orders to the garrison, she must have a very close relationship with the garrison. This is... Nai Shuewen tilted his head, and without waiting for Huami to introduce him, he walked to the door of the RV and raised his hand to greet Gong Yi inside. Hi, brother, my name is Nai Shuewen, and I'm Ami's friend. Gong Yi, who was in the RV, was worried about the foam box, which didn't match the decoration style of the RV. Hearing Nai Shuewen's words, he raised his eyes and looked over. His eyebrows were sharp, and his murderous aura was sharp. The aura of the superior is clearly visible. When facing outsiders, Gong Yi's appearance is very lethal. Even if he doesn't speak, a sense of ruthlessness can be felt. Nai Shuewen was stunned for a moment, and suddenly felt ecstatic. No wonder Huami was so arrogant. She killed people in the safe zone and didn't care about the garrison. It turns out that Huami's background is indeed very strong. Nai Shuewen could tell that the guy stationed in the RV must be a tough guy. He immediately smiled and reached out to Gong Yi. You should be Ami's husband. We finally meet him. You didn't know that Ami was alone in the safe zone before. We were all very worried about her. To gain favor, Nai Shuewen is now trying to gain enough favor in front of Gong Yi. There will be many opportunities to use Gong Yi in the future. The ambiguity in his words made people who didn't know the truth think that Huami had received great care from them in the past. Nai Shuewen didn't think Gong Yi would know the truth. They had never seen a person like Gong Yi in City D. Nai Shuewen's outstretched hand was suspended in the air, and Gong Yi was hesitant to hold it. This made Nai Shuewen feel a little embarrassed. He looked at Gong Yi. Gong Yi raised his hands and gripped the top of the car door frame, looking down at Nai Shuewen. The powerful feeling of oppression, which followed him like a shadow, made Nai Shuewen withdraw his hand in embarrassment. People like him are not worthy of getting close to Gong Yi at all. Huami walked forward with a stern face and asked Anai Shuiwen, I know you well? Are you worried about me? You can't kill me, so you can only be furious and helpless. She was in a bad mood and spoke like a rapid-fire machine, without any mercy at all. The smile on Anai Shuiwen's face became increasingly awkward. He looked at Gong Yi and wanted to say something to make amends. However, there was a hint of sneer and contempt in Gong Yi's arrogant look. At that moment, Anai Shuiwen had an illusion that perhaps this man knew everything. In fact, in the safe zone, most of the survivors don't like Huami, a pregnant woman. Anai Shuiwen wanted to say something, but Gong Yi's expression suddenly changed. The ice layer collapsed. Before he could say anything else, he put on his garrison combat cap and jumped out. Anai Shuiwen was left standing there awkwardly, facing Huami. He failed to flatter Gong Yi, and he didn't even find out what rank Gong Yi held in the garrison. Huami said, My husband and I run into people like you every few days. Not long ago, there was a group of people who tried to curry favor with my husband. Didn't those guys, named Mi Guiyuan and Zhong Zimo, just want to curry favor with Gong Yi? As a result, one died and the other escaped. Anai Shuiwen's method of currying favor is even worse than that of Mi Guiyuan and Zhong Zimo. At least he knew to stockpile a group of beauties and wanted to present them to Gong Yi. What does Anai Shuiwen have? It's not that Huami looks down on Anai Shuiwen, but Anai Shuiwen's method of currying favor with others is too low-end. Huami seemed to have a poisonous mouth, and she made Anai Shuiwen's face turn red and white. He glared at Huami and gnashed his teeth. 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. You don't have to be so high-handed. Who knows if one day you will turn around and curry favor with me?
Ha.
Huami smiled and tilted her head. Okay, I want to see how someone like you plans to rise to such a high level that even I need to curry favor with you. She smiled and entered the RV. The next moment, Huami walked out of the RV with a grim face, holding the white foam box in his hand. The newly established safe zone, there were not many survivors who had already left the observation period. After Gong Yi ran out of the safe zone, all the garrisons remaining in the safe zone began to assemble fully armed. Before Anai Shuiwen and Huami knew what was happening, the garrison had already assembled and started playing on the loudspeaker. The horn was hung on a high flagpole, which was very conspicuous, but the sound of the horn could be heard from far away. Survivors, please note that the ice ahead is collapsing due to the temperature. Survivors in the safety zone, please prepare for battle immediately or leave the safety zone of City D. The survivors who had just left the observation period were just about to jump up. Why did the ice collapse occur? The temperature is still so low. Although it is not snowing now, the 3-foot-thick ice did not form overnight, and it will take a long time before it thaws. No one is even sure whether it can be thawed. Maybe the temperature will stay like this. It won't continue to snow, but it won't continue to rise either. This is the best thing for the survivors. Some survivors complained, What bad luck. The garrison is not very capable. How could the ice collapse? The next moment, a foam box hit him on the head. Because the force was so great, the foam box broke into pieces, and the survivor fell directly to the ground, feeling dizzy for a moment. If you guys hadn't bombed the ice randomly and affected its structure, would the ice have collapsed? Huami walked forward and stepped on the survivor's belly twice with her belly sticking out. The other party is about to be stepped on. Originally, blasting the ice is like blowing up a building in a downtown area and requires directional blasting. If you are not careful, the ice structure will be affected and the entire ice layer will explode. This kind of thing must be done by professionals. Gong Yi, who possesses psychic powers, is also needed to find out how many zombies are under the ice. If there are too many bombs, not only will the garrison be unable to handle it, but it will also endanger the ordinary survivors. It was at this time that the survivors outside the safe zone began to make an uproar. They heard it. It was the sound of zombies. I heard it was coming in this direction. Someone pointed straight ahead with a pale face. Some people pointed in different directions. No, it should be here, here. Finally, everyone realized that the sound of zombies roaring came from all directions. The horn sounding for the garrison to recruit fighting forces was still ringing. Shirt Saixia, holding 2 axes and bringing Xiaofu, ran over hurriedly through the sparse survivors. Ami, it's bad. A large piece of ice has collapsed. It is said that there are 300,000 zombies behind the ice. Releasing 300,000 zombies at once would be difficult for anyone to deal with. The reason why there were 300,000 zombies behind the ice layer was because that area was a disaster relief center at that time. It is hard to imagine how long ago the zombies in City D existed. They were originally frozen in the ice. Ai Shuewen and the other civilian survivors launched a fierce bombardment on the ice. The ice layer above the heads of the 300,000 zombies exploded. Plus, they are constantly hitting the ice. Just like that, a large piece of ice collapsed. This is not the most dangerous thing. When a huge piece of ice collapses, it will affect more than just the local ice structure. It is very likely that the ice in the entire city will loosen. It will be lively then. All the zombies in the entire city of D will come out and jump around. As Shirt Saixia was speaking, a survivor in the safe zone rushed to the vending machine that had just been repaired. He slapped the vending machine. Where are the teleportation tickets? Where are the Xiangqing teleportation tickets? Why aren't they being restocked? I want to leave here. Qi Chuan, who was standing by, pushed the crazy survivor away and said, "Don't be crazy. I just had someone fix this machine." In the D-City safe zone, there are teleportation tickets for sale, but they have not yet been put on the shelves. These survivors have no virtue of cherishing public property. If they put goods in the store at this time, wouldn't it be encouraging the survivors to buy for free? The survivor who was pushed to the ground got up again and rushed towards Chichuan. He might want to have a fight with the Kegawa. However, most of the survivors in this safe zone haven't drunk energy drops for a long time. All the energy drops in the vending machines were sold for 0 yuan, and some people couldn't even buy energy drops even though they wanted to. Since the people from Chichuan were responsible for the transportation of supplies, Huami gave each of them a bag of energy crystal beads. There was an energy crystal bead hanging close to Chichuan's neck. With the energy crystal beads, he doesn't need to drink energy drops, and his strength is greater than many people. He is in better spirits than ordinary people. The weak survivors were no match for a Kegawa. The safe zone was in chaos. Ai Shuewen approached Huami, looking anxious, and whispered, "Is your husband confident? I'm not saying that if he can't handle it, we should find a way to evacuate the survivors first." Huami turned back with anger and looked at Ai Shuewen behind him. "He wants you to teach him? Who are you to make him do what you say? Aren't we all recruiting combat forces? If you have good hands and feet, go out and kill zombies to earn money and help relieve some of the pressure on City D. It's fine if you don't want to help kill zombies, but can't you fight your way out of D City by yourselves?
How old are you?
You've seen the world, but you still need to stay and help evacuate?" These words made Ai Shuewen grit his teeth. He looked at Huami with gloomy eyes. "There's no need to be so harsh. I'm also considering the majority of survivors. If you are so kind, find your wife first." Huami no longer paid attention to Ai Shuewen and walked directly to the exit of the safe zone, then stopped and said to Chichuan, "Find a few more people to guard the vending machines. If anyone shows up who wants to buy for free, just hold them down and throw them out to feed the zombies." She just didn't believe that she couldn't get rid of this evil trend. The roars of the zombies on the street corners became louder. All the garrisons inside and outside the safe zone set out to kill the zombies, except for a few who were guarding the safe zone. The survivors outside the safe zone were trembling. Someone shouted at the guards through the electric fence, "Let us in quickly. The zombies are coming and we will be eaten." Who can't talk big and nice things? After saying "I believe they are the best," Huami, Shirt Saixia, Chichuan, and others stood in the safe zone to cheer for the survivors outside. The survivors outside were furious. They pointed at Huami and cursed her. "How can you be so cruel? There are hundreds of thousands of zombies coming. How can you just watch us die? Let us in quickly." Some people were so angry that they wanted to use violence to overturn the thin layer of electric fence near the runway. The next second, he was confused. Yes, I was directly stunned by the electric shock. The survivors inside and outside the power grid fell silent. Only then did they realize that maybe this wasn't all fun. Faced with hundreds of thousands of aggressive zombies, the safe zone is real, and they will not be allowed in. Huami glanced at the survivor, who was beaten to a pulp. The air was filled with the aroma of meat. She said loudly, "It's not me who's really going to kill you, it's the zombies that are coming. The power grid has been given to you. If you want to die, keep shouting. If you don't want to die, be obedient and lay the electric fence." Looking at the large group of survivors outside the safe zone, Huami waved her hand, and Hu Jing and the contractor drove 2 large trucks slowly from the inside of the safe zone. They blocked the entrance to the safe zone with large trucks and dragged out bundles of electric nets from the trucks. "Start throwing it out. The power grid is sufficient, so you don't have to worry about not having work to do. If you lay the power grid, I can provide you with 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, and a bottle of energy drops every day." Huami supported her waist with one hand and stroked her bulging belly with the other. "It's almost 7 months now, and my belly is already bigger than that of an average pregnant woman who is about to give birth." She stood for a while and began to feel out of breath. At this moment, she herself didn't know if she had the physical strength to kill zombies for several days and nights like she did in her previous life. So it requires everyone's joint efforts. And Ai Shuewen stood a few meters away and criticized her. "What's the use of a few electric fences? It's best to leave D-City first. If we have the energy and supplies, we should protect ourselves and wait for the garrison to come to our rescue. This safe zone is too broken. It can't resist 300,000 zombies. We might as well find a way to evacuate." Huami turned around and looked at Ai Shuewen. "So, according to you, we can either wait for the garrison to come to rescue us, or do nothing. Think of a way to evacuate? Tell me, how are you going to evacuate?" Ai Shuewen glanced at Huami gloomily and said, "My initial thinking was not comprehensive, and I didn't prepare more teleportation tickets. But just because I don't have teleportation tickets doesn't mean others don't have them." As he spoke, Ai Shuewen looked towards Chi Chuan. In the safe zone, everyone followed his gaze and looked at Chi Chuan. None of them had teleportation tickets. There are no teleportation tickets in the vending machine. I wonder if the guy called Chi Chuan has a teleportation ticket? He should have one after all. He is responsible for maintaining the vending machines, and it seems that he is responsible for restocking the vending machines. Huami and everyone else instantly understood what Ai Shuewen meant. Guan Chichuan goes to ask for it. If you can't get it, grab it. If you can't grab it, kill it. There was a hint of cold murderous intent in Huami's fox eyes as she looked at Ai Shuewen. Obviously, Ai Shuewen's thinking mode is consistent with the thinking mode of most survivors inside and outside the safe zone. "I don't have it, so I'm going to steal it." Ikegawa also realized that everyone was looking at him with malicious eyes. He sneered and stood next to an empty vending machine. Is it really that obvious? The survivors in the safe zone were even more panicked than those outside. They were clearly under the protection of the power grid, but their vicious faces were exposed and their true intentions were revealed. Ikegawa, who had plenty of supplies all along, also saw for the first time a survivor who showed his ugly fangs to him just for a teleportation ticket. Some people started asking, "Hey, Mr. Chi, you help the management of Xiangqing-based transport goods. You must have teleportation tickets on you. Can you give us some? It's not about buying or borrowing, it's about giving." Ikuo was sneered and shook his head. "No. How could there be nothing?" The survivor asked anxiously. "You want to transport supplies. How is it possible that you don't have enough teleportation tickets with you? If you don't hand over the teleportation ticket, you won't be able to get away so easily today. So I advise you, Chi Chuan, if you know what's best for you, just hand over your teleportation ticket right away." As everyone talked, their anger grew stronger and stronger, and they seemed to be surrounding Chi Chuan. Huami looked at the survivors outside the safe zone. Zombies have appeared on the street corners. The survivors outside the power grid didn't have that much time, so they went to Chi Chuan to ask for the teleportation ticket. They saw that there was no hope of entering the power grid, and there was no way the garrison could turn around and rescue them. So, finally someone tremblingly picked up the electric fence and laid it on the ground. The interfaces were already made. When the contractor and Hu Jing came, They brought semi-finished wire mesh grids. Just lay the power grid and plug in the interface. It's such a simple and uncomplicated task. It can be completed in just a few steps by following the instructions of the contractor and Huijing. However, the survivors in the power grid would rather force Ikegawa to hand over the teleportation ticket. They are also unwilling to go out and help lay the power grid. I saw a group of people surrounding Qichuan, each with a ferocious look on their face, ready to rob him. Huijing on the roof couldn't stand it anymore, so he threw the bundle of electric nets in his hand at the leader Anai Shuewen's head. "What's wrong with your brains?" Anai Shuewen was caught off guard and was knocked to the ground. He quickly got up, rushed onto the roof of the car with a bleeding head, and started fighting with Huijing. The contractor on the side looked around and finally gritted his teeth, took the cross in his hand, and hit Anai Shuewen on the head when the time was right. "I tell you, I'm a civilized person, don't hit me, don't hit me." While he was shouting at Anai Shuewen not to hit him, he would occasionally sneak attack Anai Shuewen. As the fight broke out here, the survivors on Qichuan's side were also ready to take action. "Hand over the teleportation ticket." After saying that, the ferocious man no longer pretended to be kind. He stretched out his hand and was about to push Qichuan. Ikegawa pulled out a machete and started hacking at the people in front of him. Forgive him for being disorganized. Before the end of the world, he was just an ordinary person who engaged in profiteering. During the apocalyptic disaster, he had never experienced such a blatant robbery. Originally, Huami planned to wait until the conflict escalated to a certain extent. She went to help Qichuan kill someone again. As a result, Ikegawa started slashing randomly without even looking at who was in front of him. He just raised his knife and chopped whoever rushed in front of him. One knife was not enough. Ikegawa held a machete in both hands. The friends who came with Ikegawa to distribute goods and repair the vending machines were also stunned for a moment. They saw Qichuan being besieged and planned to come to help, but it turned out that Qichuan was more ferocious than they imagined. Huami didn't expect that when Qichuan went crazy, he would be like a madman. He chopped down everyone who came near him, and there were quite a few who fell to the ground. If you count them, there were at least 6, if not 5. For a moment, the survivors in the power grid dared not act rashly. In front, Ikegawa was criticizing wildly, and behind him, Ikegawa's friends also took out their machetes. No one dared to move forward. Qichuan finally stopped, holding his bloody swords, his eyes wide open, and yelled at the survivor in front of him. "I just want to do some business, but you force me to kill people. Come on, who's afraid of who?
Come on."
Doing a little business to make a living, is it easy for him? Nowadays, if you do a little business of buying and selling, you have to hang your head on your belt, right? Okay, then whoever robs him in the future, he will kill him. No one can stop Qichuan from buying and selling, not even in the end of the world. Even if you are a survivor, you are not allowed to do that. The friends gathered around Qichuan, holding knives. Each of them had an energy crystal bead hanging around their neck. Only then did everyone realize that, looking at it this way, Qichuan's people were actually quite numerous, accounting for 1/3 of the survivors in the entire safe zone. It's better not to mess with Ikegawa. If you really provoke Ikegawa and his friends, they will become a powerful bandit-like force. Life is even more difficult for the survivors in this safe zone. The survivors who had originally planned to rob Ikegawa regained their humanity one by one and retreated one after another. Some people still have smiles on their faces. Hey, it's just a misunderstanding. It's just a misunderstanding. Bang! Anai Shuewen and Huijing, who were fighting on the roof of the car behind the crowd, both fell down. Anai Shuewen was pinned down by Huijing and fell to the ground. Before Anai Shuewen could react, Huijing, who was wearing iron armor, rode on Anai Shuewen and punched him. He beat and cursed at the same time. The contractor above our heads was holding a cross in his hand and trying to jump off the roof. But it's too high. He couldn't sneak attack Anai Shuewen, so after thinking about it, he could only throw away the cross in his hand. Want to smash Anai Shuewen to death. But it was an accident and hit Huijing on the back of the head. Fortunately, Huijing wore an iron helmet. He rode on an Aishuewen, who had been beaten so hard that blood was coming out of all his orifices. Hu Jing covered the back of his head and turned back to look at the contractor, shouting angrily, "Uncle, which side are you working for?" The contractor on the roof smiled awkwardly at Hu Jing and didn't dare to speak. While the survivors in the safe zone were fighting among themselves, the survivors outside the power grid had already laid out the power grid. Although the garrison didn't see any. That's because the garrisons are all in places that no one can see, killing zombies with all their might. So the number of zombies coming to the safe zone is actually not as many as everyone imagines. There were zombies coming around the corner, 1 or 2 at a time, and even if there was no electricity grid, they could be dealt with by brave survivors. What if you are in a hurry and are about to kill the first zombie when another zombie comes to harass you? Survivors can still run back to the power grid. Therefore, compared with the survivors hiding in the safe zone, the survivors outside killed a large number of crystal cores. Huami looked at it, turned back and said to Shirt Saixia, "Let's go out and kill zombies too. It looks like these zombies are easy to kill, and we can earn some crystal cores." Shirt Saixia had this idea a long time ago. He waved his hand, took Dafu and Xiaofu, followed behind Huami, opened the iron gate of the safe zone, and walked out. All the survivors left outside have experience in killing zombies. Originally, he was traumatized by being surrounded by zombies. Now that Huami has forced them into a desperate situation, they have to overcome their psychological shadows and pick up their weapons again. At this moment, they were all killing zombies, and those who didn't kill the zombies were also leading the zombies to the power grid. Others deliberately laid out the electric grid on the ground in the shape of a bagua. Zombies can't turn, and they don't have the brains to see whether there are electric fences on the ground or not. They can only chase after the survivors. As soon as the survivors ran into the electric fence, they were surrounded by zombies that were electrocuted and burnt on the outside and inside. The survivors just need to stand in the bagua, holding an insulated stick, and pick out the crystal cores from a pile of cooked brains. At this moment, the crystal core is really easy to obtain. Even Ikegawa and his friends couldn't help but run out of the safe zone's iron gate with knives in hand, selling the various supplies in their backpacks and killing zombies to earn extra money. The contractor was jealous and climbed down from the roof with great effort. He pushed Hu Jing. "Chuanzi is out killing zombies. Do you want to go and earn one too?" As the #1 paparazzi around Miss Hua, the contractor has always made a lot of money. But 100 crystal cores can be exchanged for 100,000 yuan. Spread the electric grid on the ground and pick up the crystal cores. The contractor was very excited at first. Hu Jing nodded. He lowered his head and looked at Anai Shuewen, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog, motionless. "Let's go and kill the zombies." Hu Jing, who possessed the energy crystal bead, still felt energetic and powerful even after fighting with Anai Shuewen. With no place to vent his energy, Hu Jing urgently needed to go out for some exercise. In the safe zone, all of Huami's people went out to kill zombies. The remaining survivors who wanted to fly away were also jealous. The main reason is that the survivors who can stay here have no money, and there are no supplies to sell in the safe zone. The only supplies were in the backpacks of Ikegawa and his friends. If you want supplies, you need to get crystal cores, exchange the crystal cores for money, and then buy supplies. So whether you want to get crystal cores or supplies, you have to go out and kill zombies. Even if it's just to survive, you have to get out. The survivors in the safe zone had no time to care about Anai Shuewen. They looked at the scenes inside and outside the power grid with worry. Outside the power grid, a survivor soon came with 100 crystal cores, exchanged them for money, and used the money to buy supplies. Huami found that after entering the late stage of pregnancy, not only her temper became unpredictable, not to mention the swelling all over. Her physical strength is not as good as before. After killing zombies outside the safe zone for a while, she had to rest. Even if she held the energy crystal bead in her hand, it would be useless. Moreover, Huami discovered that she consumed the energy crystals faster than Qichuan and the others. It is even twice as fast as the speed at which Gong Yi consumes energy crystals. And that's not all. Sometimes, When others see her killing zombies with clumsy movements, they find it scary. She was so tired that after killing a few zombies, she would drag a small stool to sit down and take a rest. Sometimes the zombies were just more than 10 meters away from her, but she was not in a hurry at all. She just stood there and waited until she could catch her breath before going on to kill the zombies. A survivor observed Hua Mi and muttered, "She is so arrogant. I don't know what she is doing. She has a powerful backer. Can't she just rely on men to support her? Why is she out here killing zombies?" The most hateful person is probably someone like Hua Mi. I heard that her husband was a garrison officer, and his rank was relatively high in the garrison. Hua Mi doesn't need to come out to kill zombies. She can just go back to Xiangqing to take care of her baby. Guose, who had finally escaped from the zombie aggression in City D, rushed back to the safe zone. The first thing he saw was Hua Mi, who was chopping zombies with a long knife. Her cheeks were hot. She stumbled over, killed the zombie in front of her with a machete, and stood in front of Hua Mi. The first sentence Guose asked shakily, "Ami, where did you buy your long sword?" It is not easy to kill zombies with a machete. You have to get close to the zombies to make the move. But the long sword is different. Hua Mi's sword is 2 meters long. She can create enough space around herself to kill zombies 1 meter away. This is what Guose realized after dealing with so many zombies. It turns out that Hua Mi, the pregnant woman, is the one with the most experience in dealing with zombies. Hua Mi stuck the long knife into the snow, panting, and looked at Guose, who suddenly appeared. To be honest, there were more than one zombie scratch marks on Guose's body. There was even a circle of fresh teeth marks on her neck. A few survivors nearby, seeing the ragged Guose, all took a few steps away. Someone shouted, "Gus, you're not dead? How many zombies have bitten you? You're going to turn into a zombie soon. Why did you come back? Isn't this just adding to the chaos?" Previously there was Wu Guilong, who hadn't passed the observation period, and now there's Guose. Guose was silent. She did not answer the questions of the survivors, but looked at Hua Mi and continued to ask, "Where did you buy your long knife?" In order to get rid of more of these zombies better, Guose urgently needs a longer knife. Hua Mi raised an eyebrow. "I asked someone to beat me. You want a long sword? I'll make one for you, for 1,000 crystal cores." Qingjin opened a factory that initially specialized in making smokeless firewood stoves. Hua Mi took out a few machetes from the level 19 factory and asked the factory to modify them for her, lengthening the handles and making a few long knives. "I didn't expect that there is a market for such weapons nowadays." Guose nodded with her whole body trembling. With shaking hands, she pulled out a large bag of crystal cores from her waist bag. The sun shines on those crystal cores, flashing bright light. She gave the big bag of crystal cores to Hua Mi and said dizzily, "Exchange for a long sword, and see what supplies you can exchange for me." She tried her best to think about her next plan. "I'm going back to kill zombies." Shirtsaixia came over and saw that Guose was in a strange state. "What's wrong with you? You finally came back alive. Why do you want to go back?" This sentence seemed to touch Guose's tears, and she choked up. "I'm going to look for hydrology." In fact, she could have gotten away long ago. Before she was swallowed by zombies several times, she was lucky enough to be rescued by the garrison every time. But she always refused to return to the safe zone and turn around to kill zombies again, trying to find her husband. The garrison was helpless with her because they were also busy and could only go with Guose every time. "We can't send a special team to garrison in the zombie tide and forcibly take Guose back to the safe zone." Hua Mi turned sideways, revealing an Ai Shuiwen, whose back was covered in blood. "Your husband has already returned to the safe zone. He stayed outside the safe zone for 48 hours and is now inside the power grid. But he just had a fight with someone and is now. He is probably still in a coma." Guose was stunned, his brain obviously not keeping up with Hua Mi's words. After a long while, she said in a daze, "Really? He came back a long time ago." Really? She had been searching among the zombies for so long, but the man had already returned to the safe zone. Immediately afterwards, Guose's eyelids folded and he fainted. Hua Mi kicked the hilt of the knife, and the long knife rose up. She used the back of the knife to support Guose, Prevent Guase from fainting directly on the electric net. The survivor next to him advised. She has no idea how many times she has been bitten by zombies. She is definitely beyond saving. Why save her? She looked so dazed just now. This is a sign of transformation into a corpse. Shirt Saixia frowned and shouted at the survivors who were making sarcastic remarks. Just shut up. I don't need you to teach me how to do it. Looking at Huami in front of her, she put Guase, who was on the back of the knife, next to the electric fence, and then explained calmly, her symptoms seem more like a high fever, not the slightest sign of corpse transformation. Put her here. Huami put the long knife in her hand into Guase's hand. Then, Huami picked up Guase's large bag of crystal cores, weighed them, and said to Chi Chuan beside her, if she can wake up and survive in D City for one day, I will take care of all the supplies she needs. Just for the sake of so many crystal cores, Huami felt it was worth it. Ikegawa gave Huami an okay gesture. Just as Huami turned around, she saw Anai Shuewen in the safe zone who had woken up at some point. At this moment, Anai Shuewen was sitting on the snow, leaning against the tire of the truck, looking at Guase, who was lying on the ground with a complicated expression. It was only a short distance away from the electric fence, but Anai Shuewen just looked at it and had no intention of getting up to take a look. Huami no longer had the long sword in her hand, and she carried a large bag of crystal cores back to the safe zone to rest. In this safe zone, the first few bodies had been shoveled away by the garbage truck. Except for Anai Shuewen, who was still sitting on the ground, most of the survivors were forced to leave the power grid due to the situation. There are only a few survivors in the safe zone. Seeing Huami return to the safe zone, Anai Shuewen suddenly stood up from the ground. He stretched out his hand, with blood all over his face, and stood in front of Huami Ami. My wife has so many crystal cores, but you only need to buy a long sword and exchange them for a few meals. It's really a waste. Looking at the man in front of him, with a bloody head. He was beaten up by Huijing not long ago, but he is still alive? Huami held the big bag of crystal cores in her hand and looked at Anai Shuewen's matter-of-fact face. She smiled. These crystal cores were given to me by your wife herself. A large bag of crystal cores, placed in Guase's waist bag, can make the entire waist bag bulge. And these crystal cores were obtained by Guase at great risk of life and death. What does it have to do with Anai Shuewen? Anai Shuewen raised his hand, wiped the blood flowing from his head, and said nonchalantly, my wife and I are husband and wife. What's mine is hers, and what's hers is mine. I have the right to dispose of this batch of crystal cores left by my wife. This is our joint property. For Anai Shuewen, anyone with a discerning eye could see that this was clearly an unfair deal. I don't know how much money such a big bag of crystal cores can be exchanged for. It's enough to buy countless long swords or even support an entire team. He just gave it to Huami directly and made such a decision only when Guase was unconscious. Anai Shuewen believed that if Guase was sober, she would not do this. Ami, you've seen what's happening to my wife. She's not in the right place anymore. What she says doesn't count. Anai Shuewen stopped Huami and prevented her from leaving. Huami smiled and raised her face. But this is my rule. Whatever goes into my pocket is mine. No one can take it out of my pocket. She is a woman who loves money very much. Huami even kept a clear account of what supplies her husband Gong Yi needed. From large items like supplies for the garrison to small items like the energy crystal beads used by Gong Yi. Gong Yi would give her money for every payment. Anai Shuewen's face turned ugly and unsightly. Ami, aren't you blatantly robbing? Ask the people here. There's such a big bag of crystal cores, and you haven't even checked how many there are, but you gave my wife a long knife. Is this appropriate? The survivors around him kept nodding in agreement. It's really a bit inappropriate. Someone whispered, is the pregnant woman taking advantage of the fact that Sister Gua is not in her right mind, so she plans to rob her by force? If Sister Gua wakes up, she will definitely regret using so many crystal cores to buy a long sword. Huami continued to smile. Even if she wakes up and regrets it, I won't return the crystal core to her. My principle is if you can rob something, don't buy it. How do you think? You are allowed to rob, but I am not allowed to rob? It was just a robbery, so what? Just ask, how is it? The group of survivors looked unhappy. It had not been long since they had planned to rob Chichuan. Now they are accusing Huami of forcibly snatching Guisei's crystal core. What position do they have to accuse Huami? It seems that they don't have such a position. The accusations around them gradually died down, mainly because Huami was so powerful that they simply couldn't win. With the fighting power to defeat a pregnant woman, they can go out and kill several zombies. And Shuewen glanced around and saw that the people who had originally supported him fell silent one by one. He was anxious, waved his hand, and said, "We can't just give away our common property without knowing why. If you help me get it back, I'll give you 50 crystal cores each." Look at the bag in Huami's hand. It's so heavy, probably containing several thousand crystal cores. Even tens of thousands are possible. Who knows how many zombies Guisei killed? She was trapped in the zombie stream for several days, and at the critical moment of life and death, she killed zombies day and night. Huami definitely couldn't let the crystal core that she had worked so hard to obtain be given away so easily. When they heard that each person could get 50 crystal cores, the survivors, originally indifferent and unwilling to meddle in other people's affairs, changed again. Someone stood up and said sanctimoniously, "Captain and you are too polite. It doesn't matter whether there is a crystal core or not. The key is that the truth is not like this." Then he politely said to Huami, "Ami, you can't do this to your problem. This is too immoral." Morality? Huami sneered and walked towards her RV. What morality is there in the end times? When she tried to leave, she was stopped by 2 survivors. They were also very polite and willing to negotiate. "Ami, you should return the crystal core that the wife fought out to the husband. We will get your long sword back for you." Everyone saw Guisei shakily taking out a large bag of crystal cores and wanting to buy Huami's long sword. And the right amount of supplies. Huami placed the long knife in Guisei's hand and carried the crystal core back to the safe zone. As for what Guisei said, he wanted to use the remaining crystal cores to exchange for an appropriate amount of supplies. Guisei can't survive anymore. It looks like he's going to become a zombie, and zombies don't need any supplies. So, exchanging such a big bag of crystal cores for a long knife would make anyone feel painful. Huami, whose way was blocked, held the crystal core in one hand and supported her lower back with the other. Her face, which was swollen during pregnancy, gradually turned colder and finally revealed a hint of murderous intent. "Don't think that I can't kill you just because I gave my long sword to Guisei. Get out of my way," she said coldly, looking at the 2 little pockmarked guys blocking her way. Xiao Ma Cha had also seen Huami kill people. But when Huami was killing people at the survivors' gathering, there were only 1 or 2 people stopping her, and she had a long knife in her hand. The 2 little pockmarks standing in front of Huami were motionless. Huami turned her head and looked around, and the survivors in the safe zone surrounded her. They all stood still, looking at Huami with numb, greedy eyes. And Shuewen spoke up. "Ami, I don't want to embarrass you. Put down my crystal core, and we can still be friends." Her husband is a high-level garrison officer, and Shuewen does not want to offend the man behind Huami. But just because Huami's man is stationed there, it doesn't mean she can act tyrannically and rob Shuewen of so many crystal cores. Moreover, the garrisons inside and outside the safe zone of City D have all gone to kill zombies, and this safe zone has been left unattended. Whoever has the bigger fist can be the master of this safe zone. If we really do something to Huami, we should be careful and the garrison won't find out. Huami smiled and raised the bag of crystal cores in her hand. This bag was packed in a very ordinary plastic bag. Through the transparent plastic bag, you can still see the dazzling crystal core inside. A very solid and heavy bag of crystal cores. A large bag of crystal cores was right in front of them.
Someone reached out to take it.
He said nonchalantly, "That's right, it's the crystal core that my wife got. You." He hadn't finished speaking, and his hand hadn't yet touched the bag of crystal cores in Huami's hand. She raised her hand and threw the bag of crystal cores in her hand out, hitting the man opposite her in the face. He threw the man to the ground. Everyone was shocked and looked down to see that half of the man who was hit by the crystal core bag had a purple-red face. Blood was flowing from his eyes, ears, and nostrils.
He is dead.
You killed someone? How could you kill someone? Not only did you steal things, you even killed someone? Everyone was shocked and looked at Huami as if they were looking at a monster. Someone took advantage of the chaos and rushed towards Huami, shouting, "What on earth are you doing? Why are you so evil? Huami is a good person, right? She kills people, robs people, and does everything. To say that she is not a good person is to say that she is an extremely special existence in this safe zone." Not only do the garrisons listen to her, there is also a hidden force surrounding her, and many inconspicuous people in the safe zone have a good relationship with her. For example, Ikegawa, who they originally thought had little fighting power, and Ikegawa's large group of friends. There were also the contractor and Huijing, who were fully armed and focused on fixing the power grid. A bad person doesn't look like a bad person, and a good person doesn't look like a good person. What's the trick? Huami didn't answer, but raised the bag of crystal cores in her hand and continued to smash. One hit kills each one. Such a heavy bag of crystal cores, in her hand, if wielded in the right way, could have the destructive power of a hammer. And Ai Shuiwen's face turned pale. After Huami killed a few people, he stepped forward and shouted, forget it. Don't kill them. Don't throw away your lives just to get justice for me. It's useless. Forget it. Still can't win." And Ai Shuiwen felt sick, but he was seriously injured now, and the other characters were just small fry who couldn't even handle a pregnant woman. You have to stop the loss in time. Huami used a bag of crystal cores to smash several people to death. At an Ai Shuiwen's call, the people around stopped. Huami also stopped her murderous intention and looked at an Ai Shuiwen with a half-smile. "If I remember correctly, it was you who organized the team and blew up the ice layer in City D without any investigation. This incident has not yet passed. Captain Anai has made great contributions to the City D becoming what it is today. Don't think that just because no one mentioned it, this matter will become a thing of the past." Huami is keeping a record of this with Anai Shuiwen. Anai Shuiwen's face became increasingly ugly, and a lot of blood flowed from his head. The survivors surrounding Huami suddenly felt uneasy. The way things have turned out is indeed far from what Anai Shuiwen had promised, that everyone would get rich together. Someone looked at Anai Shuiwen with a pair of resentful eyes, and the center of the conflict suddenly shifted from Huami to Anai Shuiwen. Everyone looked unhappy. There were still several corpses lying on the ground. Without crystal cores or supplies, there was no way to fly away from City D. People in despair do need to find an outlet to vent their emotions. Huami left with the crystal core. After a while, she heard from Xiaofu, who had returned, that Anai Shuiwen could no longer stay in the safe zone and took the initiative to go outside the safe zone to kill zombies. He still used Guosei's long sword.
Heh.
Huami laughed. "I'll wait and see how Guosei reacts after he wakes up." Xiaofu asked Huami naively, but Guosei had a fever and didn't wake up, and Anai Shuiwen didn't take care of her. She just lay in the snow. Even if she didn't turn into a zombie, she would probably freeze to death. Xiaofu felt terrified by the man's reaction. Fear of gender relations and fear of marriage. She is still young, but not that young. She has really reached the age where she knows everything, yet everything is new to her. Anai Shuiwen and Guosei worked together to visit every car in the safe zone with great enthusiasm. The two of them really look like a model couple in the end times. But now, Anai Shuiwen can't see any love for Guosei. His mind was filled with the crystal core that Guosei had earned with his life. Even when Guosei fell in the snow, he was unwilling to get close to Guosei. The only time he got close was to take Guosei's long sword. Xiaofu feels terrified by such a husband. Huami stood in the RV and touched Xiaofu's head. "You are a girl. Girls in the apocalypse have to work harder than girls in any other environment. You also have to be stronger. You have to be stronger than men. Don't despair of men, but you must always maintain the courage and confidence to withdraw from a relationship at any time." After comforting Xiaofu, Huami took out the ingredients from the level 35 warehouse and asked Xiaofu to cook. She sat on the sofa where there was no table anymore and took out her cell phone to look at it. Gong Yi sent her several messages. The ice layer in City D is about to collapse. You have to be careful. If necessary, return to Xiangqing immediately. Don't wait for me. These pieces of information all indicate the critical situation in City D. Huami read the message several times again, and finally, she closed the phone and put it in the pocket next to her. There was absolutely no intention of listening to Gong Yi and leaving City D. After Huami and Xiaofu had eaten their fill, she took out a brand new long sword and left the safe zone with Xiaofu. Before she walked out of the Bagua electric grid on the ground, she saw a figure flash past her quickly. The speed was so fast that even Huami couldn't see clearly.
Ah, I'm fine.
A residual shadow remained at the original place, circling around Huami. The laughter came from that afterimage. Shirt Saixia, who was chopping zombies nearby, ran over, looked at the afterimage that moved left and right, and asked nervously, "What is all this?" Huami seemed unusually calm. Speed superpower. In fact, she didn't see clearly what it was. She just heard Wu Guilong's voice. Seeing Shirt Saixia's puzzled expression, Huami explained, "It's a kind of superpower. It's different from most power superpowers. It's considered a special superpower. The survivors of Xiangqing Base are no strangers to superpowers. But they generally believe that superpowers equals great power. But in fact, drinking energy drops now can also achieve the effect of increasing strength. Therefore, the survivors do not envy the so-called supernatural beings." Wu Guilong evolved into a superpower. This news made those survivors who wanted to kill him feel a strange feeling in their hearts. Especially when Wu Guilong stopped in front of Huami and said with an embarrassed look, "Miss Hua, that." Huami raised an eyebrow. "You signed a blood pledge to work for me for 100 years. Now that you have become a superpower, do you not want to fulfill this promise?" She didn't particularly want a person with special abilities to work for her. After all, the ordinary person in her hand, now holding the energy crystal bead, has almost the same strength as the psychic. In the current environment, there doesn't seem to be a particular need for people with speed abilities. In fact, all superpowers ultimately lead to the same end. No matter whether the cat is black or white, if it can kill zombies and mutated plants and animals, it is a good cat. When common superpowers and special superpowers are pushed to the extreme, it is difficult to say which one is more powerful. When she gave away the 5 loaves of bread, she just casually asked Wu Guilong to work for her for 100 years. No one expected that Wu Guilong would actually survive and evolve superpowers. Wu Guilong waved his hands hurriedly. No, that's not what I meant. A drop of water should be repaid with a spring. Miss Hua, don't worry, I know the rules. From today onwards for the next 100 years, I will be your employee. If you want me to go east, I will never go west." He didn't know if he could live to be 100 years old, which is roughly from now until the day he died. He would work for Huami for free. But in fact, there is nothing wrong with this for Wu Guilong. He has witnessed the ugliness of human nature and experienced the pain of having nothing and losing his loved ones. If he really wanted to live alone and freely now, he wouldn't know where to go. He was even more afraid that with such a fast speed and such specificity, he might be caught and sliced by some evil organization. Wu Guilong thought a lot. It seems safest to stay with Miss Hua for now. At least Miss Hua is a nice person and has a very close relationship with the garrison. No matter what people's hearts are like now, at least follow the garrison, and the general direction will not be wrong. Wu Guilong was determined to serve Miss Hua from now on. Miss Hua looked Wu Guilong up and down, but before she could say anything, Shirt Saixia, holding 2 axes, immediately said, "Sure, we welcome you to join us. From now on, you and we are in the same trench." As he was speaking, a dozen zombies came over from the corner of the street with bared fangs and claws. "I'll kill him." Wu Guilong disappeared in a flash. Everyone only saw a residual shadow circling among the group of more than a dozen zombies. Wu Guilong came back and stood in front of Huami, holding a handful of crystal cores in his hand. Behind him, a dozen zombies stopped moving. Their heads were beaten to pieces. After a while, they fell to the ground one by one, all dead. The survivors gasped. The look in his eyes when he looked at Wu Guilong changed. Especially Anai Shuewen, there was a gloomy look in his eyes. After a moment, he seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes looked at Wu Guilong, and then became very eager. If he could be on the same team with Wu Guilong, what would he have in the future? Just based on Wu Guilong's ability to take crystal cores with his bare hands, wouldn't there be a lot of survivors joining their team? Anai Shuewen knew Wu Guilong before. They escaped from one place and were preparing to go to Xiangqing base. When we came to D City to earn crystal cores, everyone hit it off. Although there were some misunderstandings before, Wu Guilong is a simple person. Although he is a boxing champion on the surface, after long-term training, people like him are actually simpler than the world outside the boxing world. Anai Shuewen quickly organized his thoughts in his mind and prepared to try to get close to Wu Guilong. Wu Guilong handed all the crystal cores he had obtained to Huami. "Miss Hua, these crystal cores are all for you. I will go get some more." Anyway, Wu Guilong is Huami's free worker, and Huami will definitely provide him with food and accommodation, so there is no point in him keeping any private property. Huami was quite satisfied with Wu Guilong's advice. She took the crystal core from his hand and placed an energy crystal bead in his palm. "This is a token of our own people. Well, keep it well. In the future, you will know which of our own people are with this energy crystal bead." Chi Chuan, who was not far away, raised his eyebrows at Wu Guilong and pulled out a necklace from his neck.